Welcome back to the kick-off. We did a 5-hour stream last night. You ready to go again, Joey?
I'm ready.
We're ready, brother. Me and the lads are here to watch Manchester City away at Manchester United, actually. And we've just finished watching Everton get a 1-0 win over West Ham. Pretty impressive away from home, given the struggle West Ham are going through, given everything that's happened in the last week. First of all, what did you make of the win?
I think it's a great result for them. I mean, they needed that more than anything, especially with everything that's looming over them now and the points deduction. They needed to get a convincing win. And look, West Ham, you know, they're not in the best form in the world, but they're a very, very good team, very solid team. David Moyes is still doing good stuff, obviously going back to his old club. So I think it's a great result.
What about the 12-point deduction rumours? Did you say that you didn't think it would be 12 points?
Yeah, so basically the Premier League have suggested that it's 12 points, but they're under pressure because all the clubs have voted for it, and they are suggesting that it should be a 12-point ban. It should be the maximum punishment. You can understand why the Premier League clubs would want to say that. So remember, Premier League have got to represent their clubs. Like, it's not about necessarily what Everton want, it's about what the other 19 clubs want if it's against one club.
That's fucking mad, that, isn't it?
So what
I'd be careful with that, because any club can fall into debt.
This is the thing.
You be judged, not lest you be judged, I think was in the Bible somewhere.
Yeah.
Be careful. Do you know what I mean?
God, are you reading the Bible?
No, because I'm thinking about Tonali, and I'm remembering the way everyone was towards us about Tonali, and I think it's funny, but when all these other betting scandals come out in the future, I'm going to keep that same energy that we got. And I think Everton, if they do manage to get out of this, which I don't know if they will or not, people are always at risk for getting into debt. It can happen in a lot of Premier League clubs. It's so easy. And I do have a little bit of sympathy for them, because the fans, they're not the ones in charge of the fucking finances. They didn't say, let's buy a whole new stadium when we haven't even got a fucking good football team.
And not by the league, but they've already almost like served a bit of punishment in terms of how they've had to be with their transfer policy over the last couple of years. And they're moving on the likes of like Richarlison, Anthony Gordon, who are important players for them, not being able to really bring in anyone to replace those players. So it's like they've already had a bit of bad luck when it comes to it. And now they're going to get hit with this. But I'll tell you what I was saying earlier. I think even with the 12-point deduction, say it is 12, I think there's still a chance they stay up, even with that, because I'm looking at the teams down the bottom of the league, and I'm thinking, I reckon Everton could potentially finish about 12 points above some of these teams down the bottom of the league anyway. You look at Everton's season so far, like, took some bad losses. They've also had some good wins. Today was a good win. They beat Bournemouth, didn't they? They obviously... They had another bit of an upset win in there as well against Brentford at a time, so not been too bad.
I agree. I looked at the table. They're 15th. They got 10 points at the moment. So if they were to, let's just say they got it soon, they'd be on -2 points, for instance. Sheffield's got 1 point. Burnley's got 4 points. They could easily catch up with these teams.
They'd have 7 points to make up to be sort of... level
they could do that
with Luton, for example, or 8 points to be out of the relegation zone. So they'd have that to make up. It would be fucking hard.
It would.
But I agree. The standard down there is so bad. If you're ever going to get it, this is the season to get it, actually.
And I'll take it early. I wouldn't wait. I'll take it early in the season now, before the season, the table really starts shaping. And I think with the quality they got, that Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he looks like he's getting back to.
Do you not think Everton always kick in whenever it's deep shit time as well? They might just do that earlier this time. They always turn into a whole nother fucking team towards that point of the season. However, there is the risk, and this is a very real risk. They get relegated, they never come back. Like, their finances could be in such a fucking mess. Like, if you're an investor, do you really want to buy a club like Everton, who are in that? Because the amount of money it would cost to buy them, plus the debt, plus the revival, how many other clubs out there would you might as well just go and buy someone else?
It'll be the first time I can ever remember a club going down and playing their first season in the new division below in a new stadium, because they'll be in there next season.
It'll be a beautiful one. How much debt do we say they're in? 300 million?
It seems like the accounting period of the last 4 years is 300 million, yeah.
But we don't know the actual total of the debt.
No, because remember, they've still got to pay off instalments on the stadium as well, so it could actually even be more than what they're accounting for at the moment.
Okay, so just for a reference, Newcastle was sold to the Saudis for 350 million. Like, if you're an investor, there's no way you're going with Everton.
And when you look at Newcastle, right, I think like previously we might have said that Newcastle and Everton would fall into that same sort of bracket in terms of like clubs with an allure for investors to go and buy because of the support, because of the fan base, and because of potentially like the infrastructure there to build for the future. I know Manchester City were the other Manchester club, but even more so I would say like a Newcastle and Everton, they could be more appealing because if you can get it right, how well it can go. And we're almost seeing that to a point at Newcastle at the moment, but that debt is something that's going to make people massively steer clear of them.
It's brutal, and I think the fact that all these other Premier League clubs have voted for it, I mean, how can it not happen then?
Well, the thing is now it's got to go to a third party. So basically there's a governing body that looks after this and has to ratify the actual suspension. And it seems like the suspension is going to be 6 points as opposed to 12. So the debate that we're saying, they could stay up. I mean, they could definitely stay up if it's only 6 points. But it just shows you like there is an immense amount of pressure from the Premier League. But actually the sane people here are going, is it that bad? With the context of the COVID season, with the context of the stadium rebuilding, etc., etc. It doesn't seem as bad as what
it's not like you fucked it off and been deliberately arrogant and poor in managing. Like you've had bad circumstances to explain it.
Yeah, I mean, look, during the COVID season, a lot of teams lost a lot of money, but Everton lost like 2 or 3 times more money than most people. But it just shows you like there are other factors going on here. They've invested in infrastructure for a reason because they want to get their stadium better so they get more match day income. Like that's just the way the business works. So it's very hard.
I think the one thing that we're not looking at is actually the investment that they have made hasn't been good on any level. And in fact, most of those players have depreciated to quite a rapid level to the point that they're not really worth anything on the balance sheet. So you can't really even offset against the future sales of players because Calvert-Lewin has been so injury prone that actually if you talk about his resale value, it's probably not as much as it would have been. And I think, they got rid of Gordon and not very much money for him, only 40 million. Richarlison has gone and Pickford's probably the last other valuable asset. And you still think, you look at Tottenham, Man United, all the people that went and bought goalkeepers in the summer, no one went and got him. So it's not looking good, really.
The judgment of players at Everton as well isn't like good in my opinion. Like in terms of the way they were speaking about Anthony Gordon, the whole fucking fan base, and I know that there might be a bit of sour grapes there, but they were talking Anthony Gordon down like he was some useless fucker who, I mean, literally, they couldn't have been more wrong. He has been a standout player for Newcastle this season, one of the best top 5 players we've got. So I think, in retrospect, they could have charged us a lot more for him.
But do you know what? With the Anthony Gordon example there, he came into a Newcastle side where they weren't massively reliant on him. And then he had that sort of like half a season to sort of get his feet under the table, push on, and then start to put in really, really good performances this season like we're seeing. Whereas in the Everton side, the standard was so poor that it's like, who's this 18-year-old kid? Oh, he's half decent. Let's whack him up front and let's put all of our hopes on him. So, of course, they're then going to be going, well, we ain't started winning matches. We got him up top. You know what I mean? So I actually think that you're bang on there when you say about the standard judgment of what's going on with their players there.
Let's talk about the City game. Obviously, there's been a bit of a renaissance of Harry Maguire. A lot of people are singing his praises. Are we back on the Maguire hype train?
I mean, in the last 17 games that Man United have played with Maguire in the team, they've won 16 games. So to say that he isn't making a positive
You're
impact...
not allowed to say that. I think he scored a couple of own goals in that as well. You're not allowed to say that.
But come on, look at the results speaking for themselves.
Isn't this a lot like the England games where it's who were they playing him in against? Like as in Manchester United, obviously, they usually only start Maguire if there's a gun to their head or if the team in front of them are absolute shit.
Yeah, and it's still a nerve-wrack if it is so. I just looked at their starting 11 and the fact that they've got Lindelof as left back and they've got Eriksen on the right wing tells you everything about that club right now. It's actually a little bit sad. There's a point as a rival fan where you look at the team and you're like, this is funny. And there's a point where it breaks and you're like, could you just have something? Have something that makes me respect you a little bit, because it's too much at this point.
Going in, obviously none of us are Man United fans, but going into this game against Manchester City with Evans and Maguire as the back two, that's
I think this is the best time to play City, though. That's the one thing I will give them is
why?
I don't think City, as much as I think City should win the day, I don't think City have looked like their best at all this season.
There's one key component that's back, though. Rodri.
I mean, massive.
He's back today.
Yeah.
Grealish as well.
Starting.
Yeah. Anchor.
I think with Rodri there, Grealish definitely is one of them, but with Rodri there, that guy is so pivotal to that Man City team. They're going to look like a different team.
I think Harry Maguire could be desperately exposed today. I do think that. I think he's looked good in those games. Do you know what? When you were saying about being nervy, I'm actually not that nervy when I see Harry Maguire on the ball. I feel like the mistakes he makes, are ones that sort of just come out of nowhere, and it's not so much he's had time to think. Yeah, I think that there's certain teams like this that he's just going to be exposed against. So I think that could come into play today. But I do think that, to an extent, the rule book does sort of go out the window in this fixture, because you look at last season, 1 win apiece, I think it was. Most seasons gone by when City have been the team that are a lot further on, Manchester United do seem to pick up results almost against the odds in this fixture.
The differences of this one is when you're looking at their team, you're like, there's so many things wrong with it. So even the players are not right. Even Eriksen in the middle wouldn't still be right, but he's on the right wing. And then you look at Lindelof at left wing, and you're like, look who they're up against. Those players are going to run rings around them. So I know the Derby effect does have a thing, but you need to have a baseline, like sturdy team, starting lineup, momentum of some kind to really make that happen. And they got none of those things.
Do you know the thing about Man United that really fascinates me is how they can be so shit this season and still win so many games.
Yeah.
Like, I have and this is the thing that really blows my mind about Man United fans. I've never looked at a fan base, especially the influencers. I can't say how shocked I am at some of the things they've been coming out with this season. It's like they're not watching the games because I've barely seen a good performance from Man United all season. And the games that they've won, they've deserved to lose 90% of them.
Yeah.
They've looked horrendous. And then they'll go on this run. Like recently, Brentford, Sheffield United, Copenhagen. Now, there were 3 games where I thought you'll win all 3 of them because they're easy. And you'll get all gassed up again. And that's where the excitement starts. Oh, Nana's now great. Maguire's now great. There's such that fan base, psychologically, they're bipolar. They're up and down. I'm like, guys, come on. You know you're playing shit teams. Have a bit of level-headedness about you. You're literally playing the worst teams possible.
But they're scraping through them all.
No, and that's the thing that like Chelsea aren't doing, for example. So I give them credit. But what I am interested to know is, when you're scraping through and out of nowhere, a bit of momentum starts. And I am interested to know, is this just a temporary, horrendous start for Man United? And can they start clicking a little bit? And will it come good for them? Or are we just going to see Ten Hag play horrendous football all season and keep getting away with it because he's got firepower?
Can I just say why I think fundamentally no? Is because Anthony is terrible. And he is meant to be starting for them. And the fact that he's on the bench today in place of Eriksen, and Amrabat has come and he looks like he's always running backwards. And you got Maguire and Evans as a centre-back duo. And I feel like I'm in 2008 again. It's just this really bizarre mix of problems. But I think the biggest indicator is just what's happening with Jadon Sancho. I think not being able to make that go away and fix it is a real indicator for me as to what's happening in and around that club. Because if he smoothed it over, knowing in January I'm getting rid of you, but I'm going to bring you in because I can't be distracted for 10 games while you're being an arsehole. He hasn't fixed it. So
it's a pride thing, though. It's who's gonna fold first?
Well, look. I tell you now.
Flip it on you, Marvin. I just want your opinion because Arsenal fan, you remember how the Arteta situation played out with Aubameyang. Why is this different from that in your head?
Because Aubameyang had quite a lot of chances, actually. I think if I remember correctly, I can think of 4 chances of where he was rumoured to have been punished for different things, including coming back against the Tottenham game late. And for me, he also wasn't playing very well. So you put those 2 things together and you're just like, look, it doesn't work. And then at that time, it was really clear that we had something in Saka, Emma Smith-Rowe, and we knew that Gabriel was growing in himself. Well, actually, we have something, and you're the biggest barrier for that, and you're captain. So culturally, he has to go. Sancho,
age as well,
yeah, Sancho is if you manage him right, he could be a brilliant forward. But also, in January, if you want resale value off him, you need to have him in and around the squad, and then he'll go, and then you can fix it later. What would have done the best talking is if you managed to keep it quiet, move on, and then get rid of him in January, and nobody would have thought about it. But now you've made it. It's just a story. It's a rumbling story.
Ironically, signing Højlund, who plays in a similar role as you pointed out, Joey, to Haaland, could have been the perfect partnership for a Sancho to get the best out of him.
Yeah.
That's now not possible. In the midfield, McTominay and Amrabat. So that's quite a big decision for Manchester United, considering...
Apparently, it could end up being a diamond today. It could end up with Rashford being up top with Højlund and then a diamond in behind that, which would be a big call. And it would
the
be
last time they switched to a diamond, it went horrendously. And it was a one-off moment where he tried it and it didn't work. Interesting to know if he goes with it. The Eriksen one's interesting because Eriksen could play out wide. He could be in the centre. Bruno Fernandes has often played out wide this season. Another head scratcher for me because in the middle is where he's best.
When it comes to the recruitment as well, I was saying this before, regardless of how much we spent, we had Enzo last season, Chelsea. We looked at Enzo and we went, do you know what? You could do with a Caicedo next year. Who looked at Bruno Fernandes last season being one of Man United's most pivotal players and thought he needs Mount next to him?
Yeah.
It
was an
doesn't- it doesn't
opportunistic
work.
signing, wasn't it?
Square
They
pegs
saw
and
that.
round holes.
Yeah, they
and do you know what's so mad about it, right? And I actually congratulate them in terms of what they've done at being able to get results over the line. But what's so mad is at the start of the season, even before they'd signed Højlund, you were looking at Man United's team, transfers they're brought in, and obviously the ones that are coming last season, the likes of Martinez and obviously Casemiro, looking at it, and even Anthony, we were looking at it and we were thinking, God, they could have a bit of strong squad this season. We look at them now and it's like they are bare thin. Like they're spread so thin in that squad. Like, they've got really bad injuries, but I didn't realise that if you take away a few of the names that have come out through injury and maybe underperforming in that lineup, how weak their starting 11's going to look now.
I don't actually think the injuries are that big of a deal, and I know Man United fans will be going mental when I say that. Defensively, I understand, but for me, I've watched Varane and Martinez. They've been fucking shit this season.
Yeah.
So the difference between them and Lindelof and Maguire is not a great deal. And fullbacks, okay, yeah, fair, but in terms of the rest of the team, I mean, this is pretty much strong as you want, really.
I feel like Man United really should look at just bringing in the youngsters. Like they can do the thing that Arsenal did 3-4 years ago and just be like, this is not going to work. I don't look at anything that I see there and think, do you know what? If you tweak that, bring in one extra player, it's going to work. It's a wholesale removal of a whole bunch of players and really changing the identity. But I know in that academy they got a bunch of players. I know it's impossible not to. You're Man United.
Well, Man City, on the other hand, like you've said, lads, Grealish, Silva, Alvarez and Foden as a four behind Haaland, that is really going to test that back line. And Rodri and Stones, as you said, Craig, they just look absolutely solid. It would be a bad day at the office if they didn't win this comfortably for me.
Yeah, you'd imagine so, and you'd think with the recent run of results, it's only so long until Man City do turn things around. If we've learned anything over the past decade or so almost, it's only a matter of time before Man City start to go through the gears. Now, whether this season they'll have enough in there to go through the gears and win a fourth title in a row, we don't know yet. But what we do know is they will have enough to put a really strong run of form together, and we could potentially see that starting off today, I think.
I need help, though, because I feel like as an Arsenal fan, I'm blinded. Okay, I'm so focused on my own team and excited the fact that we might actually do well that I'm looking at Man City and they don't have that aura around them this time. And I saw obviously with Rodri being out, but I think just the signings just haven't lit up. I feel like the newness for me he just doesn't look like he makes sense in that team.
Doku looks good though.
Doku looks amazing. He looks exciting, but then I don't know if he can do a 10-game run where he bads it up. I don't see him.
He's a bit St. Maximin in the sense of like exciting, but I don't know. Pep's going to need to smooth the edges a bit.
Yeah, like what's the ceiling for someone like him? Is he going to become one of the best attacking players in the world? I don't know.
You know where I'm going with this.
Go on.
You guys know where I'm going with this.
Just say it.
It's Pep. It's Pep. The Pep fan club's back. I'm back, okay? We've seen this happen with Man City before. A couple of seasons ago, they didn't look that good at the beginning of the season. And then they went on a 20-game winning streak in a row. If there's any team that's capable of that, it's Man City and it's Pep Guardiola. And I think they will get going. I think with Rodri back in the team, they're only going to improve again. De Bruyne is going to come back at some point, so that's going to feel like a whole new signing all over again. Grealish has been in and out of the team. And then I feel like with players like Haaland, scored a couple midweek, confidence is going to go back up. People are starting to say, he was having a bit of a bad patch. Alvarez is just an amazing finisher himself. I can only see them getting better and coming leaps and bounds.
The maddest thing, though, at this point in the season, lads, like obviously the game's about to start, so that'll change after this game. But right now, Man City are 5th.
Yeah, that's
like,
weird.
Tottenham,
points,
Arsenal, Liverpool and Villa are ahead of Man City 10 games in right now.
Yeah.
That's fucking mind-blowing. And I remember saying at the start of the season, I'm worried about the Gundogan loss for them. And I think that the other lad who they let go, Mahrez. Gundogan, Mahrez, clutch players who get you over the line. And I think when they lost Rodri, they really missed that Gundogan to come in and be like, it's all right, man, we've got this, you know what I mean? So they are a little bit more vulnerable this season. I completely believe that.
I think Kovacic, I think Nunes are, and having Phillips, 3 of those midfielders as your options, is nowhere near.
It's not
good
Pep
enough.
Guardiola levels.
It's
is
not, and I feel like in January you'll see some shifts because it for them they could get away with just winning the Champions League again, and nobody will bat an eyelid about their league performance, and they'll be like amazing. So I think the key is how do you get them over, because Kovacic and Nunes are not levels.
Apparently they're a bit iffy on the old FFP money thing. Did you say that, Josh?
Yeah, they're not going to be able to spend as freely as they. As
No, but
Have you heard how much they want from Phillips? Do you know how much they want for Phillips?
Yeah.
So here's the problem, and we've seen this with Man United. When you start getting on that fine line of FFP, and obviously Man United but Man United just struggle to sell players. But Phillips is a classic case of that. They're now looking at Phillips going, realistically, we need fucking 50 million for him.
60, they're quoting.
Mate.
60 million for Phillips.
Mate,
They want to make profit.
That
You can
is
get 30.
insanity.
You can get 30 million for him.
How much did they pay for him?
40, something like that.
45.
And they want
45?
60.
Yeah, 40.
Mate, that would be in like
What has
Newcastle
he
are
done
interested.
to add 15 million onto his value there? We could argue that by saying he hasn't been given the opportunity to do anything. That's fair enough.
But there's not a lot of
Pep's
proven, but there's not a lot of proven players in that position right now. Though.
Yeah, I think it's the market will dictate. You remember he's an England international.
Is there?
And I feel like there's for me, I think someone like Tottenham might need him. I appreciate maybe not right now.
Okay, so who
but
do
I
you
think
think
I think
could
about
lay
having
down?
Sarr and Basuma as your core and Højbjerg, sorry. I think someone like him could come in.
We-
and
we-
add-
60 mil now. I'll risk playing skip.
We're saying 60 then. Let's be more realistic. Let's say it's 40, knocking 20 million off the value. Who comes and puts down 40 for Calvin Phillips?
Is Calvin Phillips even that much better than Skip? Let's be. No, he's better than him. He's better than him. He's better than him. But is he that?
What are we
much
basing
better than
any
him?
of this off though? Like, I
Exactly,
feel like
play for Leeds.
When you've played 17 games in 18 months, right? I think for me, if I'm a football club looking at him, I'm going, no fucking way. Like,
Yeah.
we're not risking that. There's so many more players who you've got all that data on. Like, it's a massive risk now because he could have fallen off a cliff in 18 months. 18 months in football is massive.
Yeah, but Gareth Southgate plays him all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's where he's getting his minutes.
I honestly don't think you can name me a club that put down 30. I'll go down another 10 million.
Nah,
Who put-
I think people. I think they would. I just don't know if people have it. I think Tottenham are the only one that have money.
Anyone off the top of your head?
ironically, the desperate club will be Newcastle because of
Yeah.
the Tonali situation.
Do you think you put down
But
30?
I don't think they have it though.
There's no
You're
way
better
we're
off-
spending.
you're better off going
we got
Ruben
Tonali,
Neves.
who's a
Go Ruben
Champions
Neves.
League player, for about 60 million.
Yeah.
Why the fuck are we going to look at him? He might have a Champions League medal, but he ain't playing. Do you know what
I
I mean?
can't think who else would ever really need him or benefit. But it's so that I think that will become a massive thing when that will create the market for him. But he is a good midfielder, and if there was a need, he would be someone that people would look at.
What about Villa, Brighton? They could be in for him.
I don't think he's a Brighton signing. I think Villa, Tielemans wants out, so that could be a really good option for them. But again, he could just get lost in that.
Could he do a job at Liverpool? Could he be a squad player at Liverpool?
He could.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to be a squad player. The whole reason he's leaving Man City is because he
No,
wants.
but he's
to get minutes.
on the
He's-
outskirts of the squad team. He's not even in the rotation. He's
Yeah,
like,
but I don't even think he wants to be in a row. I think he wants to play.
Spectator.
From what I saw him talking about the
No,
other
if you
day,
think
he
about
wants
Liverpool,
minutes.
Liverpool right now, the fact that we know Endo is not a long-term solution. We know that for a fact. And trying to play the current midfield three feels like they lack an anchor. I think he could do a job.
I think that could be a
won't
weird one
great
that
signing.
happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be. It could be something. I don't know.
It benefits all parties there. City get him off their hands and Liverpool get a defensive.
But they would
price is
charge
going to
them,
fuck
though.
it.
Yeah.
The
They would
price,
charge them.
the price is going to fuck it, and that price will have to drop by half.
So what they're best off doing is sending him out on loan, 6-month loan, hope that he does a Lingard at West Ham and proves himself a little bit, and then be able to go, okay, maybe we can now get 40, 45 million for him.
Did we just
That
see
was
Pep
really
Guardiola's
interesting.
bad away results?
yeah. Against the top
whole
nine.
room just had like a double take.
It looked a bit too colourful.
There was very much red and yellow there of the losses and draws in Pep Guardiola's away games. Was that specifically in this fixture?
That was in against the top 9 in the last 12 months.
Fraud.
The top 9 as well.
Pardon?
It wasn't even the top 6.
Guardiola.
Pardon?
Fraudiola, for fuck's sake.
They need to go out and win this today convincingly, man. They need to get that done.
I think let's be honest. Let's go around the table now. If it's anything other than like a 3 or 4-0, it's a failure for Man City.
Nah,
with that team,
it's a derby.
With that team, nah, come
It's a
on.
do-
With
You're
that
dis-
defense,
Can I say something though? You're still disrespecting the experienced players that Man United do have out there, like Fernandes, Eriksen,
the same
Rashford.
reason they did well against Bayern Munich. Like, it was competitive.
Yeah, they got quality. Like, even when they're not playing good as a team and the manager doesn't seem to know what he's doing, there are good players in there
This
that
is
have
the most
dug them
honest
out.
thing you could ever say.
It's true though. They've just dug them out of like situations. That's what happens when you have a bit of quality. Even when you're not playing well, some of these players will just step up.
It was funny when we did the Arsenal game. We sat there and we watched Arsenal-Chelsea, and obviously Chelsea played well. And Arsenal went, oh, well, they had our mate on Jacob who said, our quality bailed us out this one time. Like, you know, it wasn't the formation, the tactics. That's literally Ten Hag's full fucking formation. Like, that's his whole tactics of fuck around and find out, man, I've got some strikers, they'll work it out. Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely tragic. But luckily for him, those beasts that he's got in that team, like Bruno, do get him out of trouble.
You said about strikers working it out there. Is this the game that, I know it's very hard to hang our expectations of him on one game, but so far, Højlund's impressed me, but actually his numbers are really underwhelming in the Premier League.
Isn't that a bit like his last season, though?
Seventh, yeah. He had 10 goals at Atlanta, got outscored by Lookman, who played for Everton and didn't used to get in the first team. So when you look at Højlund now, I think this is his 7th start, is it, in the Premier League, or 7th appearance? You know, Nicholas Jackson's got more goals than him. Quite a few players.
Huh?
That is horrendous.
That is bad.
He hasn't scored in the Premier League.
He's elite. He's
Not
an
scored in
elite
the
level
Premier.
striker.
Who? Højlund or Jackson?
Fucker.
He's being sarcastic about Jackson.
Yeah,
I like Højlund's movement, though. Here's the difference is Jackson and Højlund, for me, you know, you're looking at two young lads in the Premier League sort of struggling to find their feet a little bit. But for me, with Højlund, if he had good service, all of the working out I'm seeing and the runs I'm seeing are telling me, yeah, you're going to come good soon. But with Jackson, I just don't see it. And maybe we should get onto the Chelsea stuff, lads, because you got beaten 2-0 yesterday by Brentford at home. I was shocked when Joey told me how few home games Chelsea have won in the last year. How many was it?
1 in the last 9 months.
Brentford have won 2 at Stamford Bridge.
Wow.
So that's... I mean, look, you've been through a hell of a transformation then, and you're in a whole nother situation, but still, that's a lot of those players are the same players still. It's fucking terrible.
I think there's a lot of sort of shocking stats that can come at the minute and then be levelled at Pochettino, but
exactly what I'm saying.
In all honesty, like,
there's a
lot of it
hangover
goes
there
back
from
to
an old regime sort of thing, and you've got a whole new team there. Now,
Oh, yeah. Wait, hold on. Why do we make this excuse for Chelsea? We had a hangover of an old regime at Spurs, you know, the Conte one that everyone was.
Yeah,
it was a
no, you're right. I just mean
hangover.
they've bought so many new players.
We're just saying it's a
and
clean
a new
break.
manager that it is difficult to know what the reality is. However, what we do know is yesterday was absolute shite.
Yeah.
So the game started all right, but it went the way it did. Why? Why do you think it happened, Josh?
First of all, can I just say it was one of those games where I went there and I just wanted to crawl in my bed and just forget about football for the whole weekend. And now I've got to talk about it. It was that bad.
Yeah,
I
feel that.
think the problem is like we have this trend as Chelsea. What we do is we don't convert the chances in the first half. They then go incredibly deep. And then we get very exposed on the counter-attack because we're trying to push and win the game, and we just get completely battered in the counter-attack. We can't take a transitional moment.
The goal, though, the first goal, the second goal, completely what you were saying. The first goal, switching off at the back post, unlocking, free headers at the back post.
I think there are 2 parts to that goal. There were 2 errors. Raheem Sterling completely loses his man and doesn't track back, and the cross comes in. And that is something that, you know, for me, I think is inexcusable and is part of the reason why I'm now thinking, is Raheem Sterling a long-term player for Chelsea? I'm not sure. If he's not going to run back and have that desire to chase back, you've got to really question it. And then, Disasi and Disasi did miss the guy in the back post, and it was just a very, very simple header. So it's very poor defending, but it's just like we will do that when we're chasing a game and we just get exposed. We're not defending.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean,
another thing as well is when you look at Chelsea's lineup, there's been nowhere near as much tinkering in terms of the personnel coming in and out as there was last season. However, when you look positionally, there's been quite a lot. So say, for example, we're seeing Levi Colwill for the last couple of matches playing at centre-back, but we've seen him play at left-back a lot of the time. Disasi, we've seen play at centre-back a lot of the time. Now we're seeing him play at right-back. Malo Gusto's in and out. Reece James has been back and forth injured. So there's still quite a bit of instability there. But all these things are relevant, but they're not excusing it. They're games like, you know, Brentford yesterday is a game that after the performance we saw against Arsenal, we should be winning. We should be putting them to the sword.
So you two did a video, and I really don't want to but you got very excited after the Arsenal game. There was talks of top 5, lads. Got to admit it.
Expose them.
There was talks of top
Brian,
5,
expose
and
them.
they were like, "This is a turning corner," and I was watching like, fair play, like it did look like it.
But can I bring it back
Where
even
was the
more?
video?
During the game, sorry, Joey, I have to say this.
Go on.
You remember, because I looked at you, during the game when you lot were 2-0 up, Joey had this swagger about the way he was talking about Chelsea. Do you remember this? You don't remember that? You remember that clearly.
I
You had
felt
this
it.
swagger, and then I was looking at
take it on
him.
the chin. I felt exactly the same way.
You felt like him?
Yeah, it's
but you
fine.
weren't saying it though.
Yeah.
You was a bit more cautious, and I was looking at it, and I remember just saying, well, Arsenal could score 2. And then they scored 2, and it was kind of like, all right, like, Chelsea kind of bottled it towards the end of the game. Let's be real, after that first mistake from Sanchez. But we still felt like it was enough for them to take something into the next game.
If they hit the next game with the same intensity, they should have blown Brentford away.
To go and lose 2-0 is bad.
The major critique from people about the Arsenal match was, oh, you got lucky. One goal was a total fluke, and I can't even believe that's up for debate, but apparently Chelsea fans are saying he genuinely meant that.
It was briefed by the goalkeeping coach. If you watch the footage back, he looks up and
when you watch the footage from his face, you can see he's looking up at, trying to whip a ball in. But anyway,
elite winger.
And the other one was
I
a
don't think
penalty.
he'd celebrate if he didn't mean it.
So one of the clear problems at the club obviously has been the lack of a striker, or the lack of a good striker rather, and the lack of creation. We've appreciated Cole Palmer this season, but I got to say, like, Raheem Sterling for me is an out-and-out fraud at this point. Like, he lived at Man City based on having 5 chances a game. We're underway, by the way, and now he's really been exposed as when it's a Luton or an easy team like that. He'll turn up. Yeah. But in those games where you're like, 350 grand a week, mate. It's time to fucking get going and actually make something happen. And then he's not even doing the basics, like switching on.
Cole Palmer has 3 times more XG and 3 times more expected assists. Per 90. So that just shows you Cole Palmer is way further on than Sterling is. So to be that far off, it's just inexcusable. And this is why, for me, yesterday's game was a bit of a moment where it's like, I don't think Sterling is good enough, and I don't think Jackson is yet good enough to be a out-and-out number 9 for Chelsea.
Jackson, for me, there needs to be, I feel for the guy because he tries. It ain't like he's a lazy little bastard or anything. He's a young kid. It's just he's not at the level. But for me, that last game was a real clear example of you're nowhere near this level. And I don't know, and I don't want to write the kid off because I actually think you give him time, but I doubt he'll ever be Chelsea level.
Well, the thing that I was always crediting Jackson for was that although he was missing sitters and there was opportunities you'd have liked to have seen him taken, he was creating those opportunities. He was getting into these positions and making those runs that I thought, okay, they're quite clever runs and you're not giving the defenders a moment's peace. But yesterday,
with a chance here. Oh, that's terrible.
Yesterday, Jackson was pretty non-existent, and you know what? We had seen them play without a striker against Arsenal, and I sort of wish we had done that again.
Mate, I thought that when I was watching the game, I thought he's played better without Jackson even on the pitch, just having a false 9 who took in.
Okay, when you say that though, mate, like if you look at the team sheet and look at the subs we had, we brought on David Washington, an 18-year-old striker off the bench as our other option as a winger. Like when you talk about the team sheet, and I do need to say this because if I don't, it's not fair. We do have a mitigating circumstance in that we have an injury crisis. We have so many players that weren't fit yesterday. Mudryk wasn't fit and available, and that's on top of the 9 other first-team players that we have.
Enzo.
With all due respect, it's Brentford, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But to say we should mix it up, right, and we should play different wingers, and to not play Jackson, we literally didn't have any other players in that front three.
I think if we've been winning matches, and then you say that exact same thing, then we can all sit here and reasonably go, yeah, fair play. But because we've been losing so many matches, you can't really.
Did you not have played the same starting
that
lineup that you did against Arsenal?
No, because Mudryk was injured and Enzo was injured as well.
Right.
Both of those players, and this was a surprise to us as well.
In the same formation, sorry, is what I was meaning. Like have more midfielders, but regardless, I personally just think. If I was on Dragon's Den and Jackson was offered at this point, it's a no from me, I'm out. You know what I mean? The kid looks absolutely shite. And in that game, that was because I've been on eyes runs are good, just like you. In that game, I thought every time he got the ball, he shit his pants. He didn't look like he was brave or big enough for the moment. He looked like he was physically shrinking with every game that goes by that he doesn't score, and it's getting worse, not better. So
I mean, he's massively underperforming his XG, which shows you like he's just not creating, he's not scoring the chances. He has had a countless amount of chances. I have to say the most worrying thing for him yesterday, like we put in some unbelievable crosses. We had some like 2 or 3 crosses that went directly across the penalty area, and he was nowhere to be seen.
Mate, that's criminal.
He was
that.
way too defensive. And I looked at the average positions as well. Cole Palmer, I was watching the game, I don't know if you noticed this, Joe, but Cole Palmer felt like he was almost everywhere, all over the pitch, right? Yeah. Looked at the average positions. Cole Palmer was further advanced than Jackson. That tells you everything you need to know about his positioning. So it's not just about the finishing anymore. It's about he needs to improve.
Running behind. The best thing Jackson did in pre-season was running behind off the last shoulder of the defender. And it reminds me of, I'm going to go back to old Bobby Robson, God bless him, when he first came in at Newcastle, and he said, Alan Shearer, why are you coming deep? I want to see the back of your shirt. I want to see your number, and I want to see you running in behind. And someone needs to give Jackson that same conversation, because I can only think, is Poch telling him to come back? I don't know what he's
doing. But don't you just think that Chelsea are a club? It's a winners' club. It's not a club that's like culture. I know that I want to be offensive, but like they're not a culture club of like, how does it feel when you get here and we're going to build with you and we're going to sit with you. It's like you come in to deliver. And I think they've brought a lot of players who aren't necessarily familiar with the league or the level that's required or winning things, and just expected them to win somehow.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really clear. Like for me, Jackson is the kind of player you have in your squad behind your main man to be like, you can come on and just learn impact. You get 12 months to figure it out, and then we hope that you push our main striker. Him coming in to be number 1, and you got David Washington at 18, and you got about 9 different wingers. For me, it's just like the poor mismanagement that we discussed before. But Chelsea's number 1 thing is win now.
Can I tell you the ironic thing about Chelsea though? And you're going to think I'm mad saying this. I don't think it's any less likely after the performance we saw yesterday that we then go and get a result against Tottenham on Monday.
You're that club now.
I think that's it. When you look, I try and not be too overreactionary, and sometimes I can't help myself. But this season, I've sat there with you, Brian. I said to you at one point, I thought we could be in a relegation battle. Then I sat in the studio with Josh and went, I reckon top 5's on. Now I'm saying, oh, God, bottom half of the table. And then if we go and beat Spurs, I'm going to be saying the exact same. And that just shows the level of inconsistency we're going to get from Chelsea this season.
That brings us on to a good point, because you guys are in 11th place right now on 12 points, matched with Wolves, Crystal Palace, 1 point more than Fulham, 2 points more than Everton.
How many defeats?
4.
They've lost 4, drawn 3, won 3.
Yeah.
That's poor.
But juxtaposed with Manchester United, who've had the same amount of defeats, but they've won 5. So,
no draws.
Where do we think Chelsea finish this season? Because, like you say, in 11th, it could go either way. But, I understand you guys have got injuries, but equally, you haven't got European football, so that's a blessing.
But come on. I think any top 6 side that would have 10 injuries of their first team players would be. I
don't think it's 10 first team players injured, because there's a lot of first team players starting. But I understand what you're saying.
It's
10 good players.
Well, we
could
just
go
looked at
through
Man
them.
City's injuries, and we're saying that City before this game are sitting 5th in the league after 10 games. And we looked at Man City's injuries. That's the treble winners last season.
Yeah, I'm just disputing that it's 10 first team.
I do think it's massively relevant, and I also think, listen, this is hypothetical, but not just the injuries, what we haven't got in terms of personnel. We know that we're going to be able to go into the January transfer market and potentially spend money. It needs to be spent right, but I do think that if we can, I sort of feel like we've got a lot of depth, and there's only one position that I really feel like we're desperately in need to address, and that is a number 9. And I do believe that if we can go into the January transfer market and buy a proven number 9, not someone that's done it for 10 games in La Liga, or not someone that's young and coming up, a 27-year-old from Brentford, go and buy Ivan Tonali, and if we can...
it's in!
Onana saved them.
That's right. No. So Onana saved it, and Harry Maguire does a beautiful goal line clearance. The 2 elite players for Man United have saved them again. They've done it again.
Haaland has got a squad.
Can we not agree though that Haaland has absolutely done like the weirdest thing here? What is this?
Yeah, he got taken off of his foot, which is
that was lucky. That was lucky. I thought Haaland got a hold of that, but it was actually, to be fair to Onana...
You're telling me he couldn't head that?
Let's not kid ourselves. Onana absolutely fucking made a mess of that.
Yeah,
he made an absolute mess
really?
of that. When you save a shot, you're not supposed to drop it right where you're standing. You're supposed to push it away from the
Haaland
goal.
should have run into the ball front first and just pushed the ball in with his front
he didn't. He hesitated.
Bro, this is
when
absolutely mental.
When it comes here, he's what is he doing?
Yeah,
he's running
He's literally
right
just
onto that.
caressed it into the air and watched it right down.
I would have ran through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think going back to Chelsea, I think
Where did they finish?
I'm saying 8th, and the reason I say that is because obviously you got the traditional big 6 teams, the other 5 around them, but Villa and Unai Emery right now, the way they're playing, we don't expect them to, go all the way maybe for a top 4 position, but the way they're playing right now, they look organised.
They look class, mate.
Everyone knows their role. They're a hard team to beat. They're not losing at Villa Park. When was the last time I was at Villa Park?
Mate, this is what happens when you change too many players, man. Like Villa have tweaked things. They haven't
There
gone
you
for
go.
the whole
They haven't
overhaul.
ripped up the book. But, but I think the problem with Chelsea is as well, and as much as I rate him, and I love him, Mauricio Pochettino, and I said he'll suit Chelsea because they got young players and he's good with young players. I'm concerned that when I'm looking at this Chelsea team, I can't really see the Poch identity on it yet. I know it's 10 games, but I'm still looking at the team saying...
It's coming.
but that's what I say. I look at Ange, and I know that's where you're saying, overhauling the squad comes into play. Because I look at Ange, and he's been there, and it's like they've already understood what they need to do. They're playing into it
the
back
same
to front.
issue. Like they had players who actually knew each other. Like so, it was easier to sort out. But I think Poch has got a harder job, and I think even though we see the price tags, people kind of forget.
But is he getting the best out of the team he has right now? Even injury-ridden as they may be,
They should be beating Brentford.
Is he getting
Brentford
the
are
best out
shite,
of
with
or
all
at
due
least
respect.
drawing out there, or not pissing away a 2-goal lead with like 15 minutes to go?
The only reason why I disagree with you is you look at that 75 minutes against Arsenal, and we look like we could mix it at the top
can you
level.
leave Arsenal alone, please, and not make them the anchor of your season? Please?
No,
Just
but this
like
is-
one game.
Well, that was the previous game.
I had to. It's
it
the
is
only
a
thing I can
good,
think on
Why are
team
you even combating onto that?
It's just a thermometer.
Stylistically, I'm seeing big differences from last season. I actually am seeing, in moments, transition to this Pochettino style of play in comparison to how we were playing last season. But what I would say is you can't really tell me any team that we're in a transition that weren't only doing it sporadically. Like when Arsenal were in transition, they weren't doing.
We're not. We're in transition.
Are you that far in transition? New manager?
Don't think
We had Conte. We were playing defensive football. When I spoke to Basuma the other day, who
How many
basically
new
is on
players
Kick
have-
Game today, you can watch that. Cheeky plug.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Basuma even said, and I'm not to give too much away, but he was saying the thing with Conte is he made them run so much without the ball. So when he got there, he was like, "What is this? Like, I'm not an athlete. I'm not a track runner. Like, why am I running so much without the ball?" And he's saying with this manager, all we do is run with the ball. So it's a complete U-turn culture shot there. But he's done it in a short space of time.
The personnel isn't massively different. What
It's
I'm
not,
saying
it's
is
not.
when you look at our team from last season,
But we did lose the best striker in the world, though. I'm just saying.
You did, yeah, but a lot of the personnel and a lot of the senior figures in the team as well have stepped up, and they're still the same people there. In the Chelsea team, the personnel is completely different to last season. That's completely different to the season before. So what I'm saying is there's other factors that go into it.
But should you have 4 losses in your first 10 games?
No, not with the run of
With
fixtures.
the manager you have, the run of fixtures you got, the amount of money
No,
you spent.
no.
I don't think you should.
No.
How many games have you lost at home this season?
You're totally right. Well, it's a lot more than we've won. I'll tell you that for sure.
I
It's
feel
a lot.
like there's just a point that we're not talking about, which is this is actually the makings of Todd Bowley. We're kind of speaking as if like this happened by mistake, as if like he inherited this team and we're all trying to figure it out. He made this team. He made this whole
He's a bit
squad,
too hands-on.
and it doesn't make sense. It's not balanced. There's such key components missing. You got almost 300 million worth of midfielders, and one's missing two missing from injury, and one's like not quite hit the ground running. I'm not sure if the energy is not being directed correctly.
The thing is though, is that it does make sense from a financial business perspective. The way that he wants to run the club, we've reduced the wage bill by over £100 million. We've signed young players that will have and gain value over time.
15-year contracts.
But again, that's like we're not failing FFP because of that reason.
The thing is that football is not a business, and when you think of it as a business, it's a terrible investment.
As
in when you think of it as a business like that, business first, it doesn't work. Because it's not just about numbers. It's not just about how long the contracts are and we got the wage bill down. That's all business terms. You can't explain that to the fans, and fans don't care. The relationship between the business and the fan base has always been fractured. And so you can't use business terms to then create empathy and capacity from fan bases.
Yeah, but the fans need to wake up then.
No, because the fans just want to see that we're moving in the right direction. That's the number one thing they want to see.
But then you put the question about Bowley's ownership. So that is business. So when you're asking about, should we not be directing it at Bowley's ownership? If you speak about Bowley, who doesn't manage the team, isn't the one coaching on the sidelines,
recruiting the players.
That is a business aspect of it. So then it is relevant for us to say
that's
he's
the
got the wage bill
footballing
down.
element of it. That's him being involved in as a businessman being involved in a footballing element of it, and then masking as if that's the reason why it's a problem. It's not a business problem. It's a sporting problem. Your team is just imbalanced. And the fact that you don't have a striker after spending that much money is about mismanagement from the sporting side of it, because the money's there. So if I provide the business resources for a project and I'm saying I want the project to be completed, but then I've got involved and I'm like, bring my friend in, or bring this guy I know in, or bring that player. I'm spending 37 million on a key number
it's
9.
All merged now, though, man. Football and business is merged. This ain't the early 90s.
Really good leaders, will have experts in the particular field and step away. So I'm telling you now, Josh Kroenke isn't sitting there and saying, we want to get in this player from that.
Bowley is? Do you think Bowley is?
We've hired
a
whole set of recruitment. Like, we've literally got a team of like 8 or 9 recruitment experts that are doing all of the transfers.
And even when you look at the personnel, the players we're buying,
person came only in the summer.
It was previous.
Bowley maybe was doing that. When you look at the initial signings, the first window, when you look at the signings of Sterling, Koulibaly, a lot of those players there, I've got no doubt that Bowley probably was sitting there and doing that. But I do think, and I'm not backing Bowley here, I'm just sort of making the point that it deserves, is that Bowley has got people in to do these things. When you look at the structure of our recruitment, as much as you can say Chelsea just throw the cash at anyone, the actual wage bill and the profile of the players in terms of their age and things like that, it is very different this summer in comparison to Bowley's first season. So I think in terms of what you're saying there about Bowley sitting there and interfering all that much, I don't actually think that that's the case now at all. I think he's got people running that side of the business.
Erling.
If you were gonna,
lads, can we just to put a pin on this, because I do want to understand where you think the season's going now, and I know it's a grey area. Where did Chelsea finish? You said 8th.
I think we finish in 7th this year.
6th.
6th to 8th.
Yeah.
Come on, pick a position.
Nah, it's hard. I'll say 8th.
I think 8th's a reasonable shout, because, and it could be higher to be fair, if they get Ivan Toney, I think there's a real possibility that things do click, because I think a Cole Palmer with an Ivan Toney in front of him, it could be a really dangerous combination.
Phenomenal.
And then that could actually help out some of the slackers like Raheem Sterling.
Can I just say, like, no disrespect, Cole Palmer's he's looking like a great young player, and Ivan Toney's a good, striker who's done well for Brentford. But the fact that we're saying that these two are the saviours for Chelsea now is hilarious.
Exactly.
That is fucking hilarious to me. This is Chelsea.
Yeah,
they sing it all the time, champions of Europe,
Ivan Toney's one of the best strikers in the league.
You're sitting top of the league at the minute, mate. You're sitting top of the league at the minute. No one last season was thinking, Basuma's going to be the driving force for Spurs.
Yeah, but it's not just him.
No,
it's the players that actually rated, Son, who's been rated, has won Golden Boots, and Madison, who has been rated.
So Madison's team got relegated last season.
Are you comparing Cole Palmer and Ivan Toney to Son and Madison?
I'm not comparing them. I'm making your point. Your point there was it's tragic that we're almost hanging our hopes on a Cole Palmer and an Ivan Toney. But what I'm saying is, when you look at the team that are top of the league in Spurs, one of their best player this season came from a relegated team last season. One of their other best players couldn't even get in the first team last season. They sold their best striker, Basuma. They sold their best striker, or the best striker in world football, in the summer. So the point I'm trying to make there is, when you're saying it's tragic we're hanging our hopes on them, that is sort of how football can work sometimes. Unexpected things can propel you up.
I get that. I definitely take that. No. I take on board what he's saying, but I still don't fully agree. I still feel like Chelsea should be having some proven winners in their team.
No, but Craig, you bought a centre-back, a goalkeeper, and a centre midfielder. You bought a whole new spine. So, and a new manager. So, yes, there is this amazing optimism. You're not fixing Chelsea with one signing. You're not fixing him with any striker on earth. That's not going to fix things, because there's still a whole lot of instability in the wider squad. There's still a lot of players that we just don't know who they really are and if they're going to make sense. So for me, I still say it's an ownership challenge, because even the process of churning that many players in and out of the club creates instability. And I think that's what we're just ignoring. It's not the football is so nuanced in the way that people coming together are trying to create a common goal vision and a way of behaving every week to win games. We just ignore that and we just think we're going to get a striker, he's going to come in and score goals, and it's going to be like, that's it. It's like, no, because underneath is all this destabilized players who don't really have what it takes to at this level.
To your point, Marvin, look, I think Ivan Toney is one of the best strikers in the Premier League, and I'm not saying that he'll solve everything.
He's not a killer.
But for me, Ivan Toney, out of all the players Newcastle have played against in the last 18 months, he's had one of the best games I've ever seen, including Mbappe, including some of these other players we played against in the Champions League. But part of the issue for Chelsea is time. They kind of also need time to figure out how many of these young players they've splashed the cash on are actually going to be any good. Because as we're finding out with Jackson, I mean, you know, sometimes you will just sign players who aren't going to work out, and that's just money. You're just going to have to write that off for the value that you are going to get from the ones who do work.
I'm hanging my hat on Christopher and Kunku anyway, so don't worry.
Baller.
That's a fair
And
estimation
Lavia.
that he'll add value. Lavia could also add value, but I still think there's pieces that don't quite add up, even when you have everybody fit. And so you may need to buy a couple.
Where are you on the
more
Mudryk
top of
thing?
that.
So
I just want to know.
I'm still on the outside of
When you're saying there about you can't just think you're getting a number 9 and it'll solve things, what do you do then? If you was a Chelsea owner and you think, right, we're obviously not doing well, we're in the bottom half of the table, what do you do? Do you persevere with what we've got and not getting a number 9?
No. You definitely need a number 9, but I don't think it's as simple as just a number 9. I think there needs to be more pieces coming together. And look, I don't know what Pochettino is. I genuinely think actually, if anyone could bring him together, it would be him. I think Pochettino can bring that team together, but we don't know what's happening underneath. If there's other resistances, it's very similar to Eric Ten Hag, where he's like, last year it was ending the season and they won the League Cup, and it was like, oh, next year they're going to be amazing. And then somewhere in the summer, you fall out with Sancho, a couple of other pieces don't quite happen, takeover problems, and then it's like all of a sudden it's like, well, what's going on here? So it's so simple to like come out of joint. I would love to see the pieces come together and see what they can do when you have
No, you
Lavia,
wouldn't.
Casado.
No, you wouldn't.
No, who, me? No, I would. For me, I like it when the big clubs are firing. For me, I like seeing it. But at the same time, I still want my team to do better than everybody else.
Of course.
I just want to see, for me, Chelsea, I feel like there's a couple of things that need to happen. Yes, a number 9 is one of them, but they might need 2 or 3 other pieces because, you know, Thiago's declining as you're figuring yourselves out.
We've got
I think we're
so
very
many.
strong
Your
there.
goalkeeper
We've got
is...
there's like 1.5 areas. There's a number 9 and there's a potential goalkeeper.
Yeah.
That's literally it. We've got some of the best young centre backs in the world. We've got the like a very, very solid
Who are
and
your
a
best
functional.
wingers?
Can we
functional
talk
front
about the game a second, lads? Because I just want to give people an update. We're 20 minutes in, and City have been on top. But what do we make of what Manchester United have done?
Anana just saved a brilliant shot off target.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
It was. You had to be careful with that one,
Yeah,
didn't
no.
you?
I have to say, Man United have had some chances there.
Yeah.
It's not like Man City have just shut them out. Like Scott McTominay could have had a goal earlier on. They've had chances. It's a fairly
been in the
open
game.
game.
I feel like this sort of game actually suits Ten Hag's quote-unquote philosophy because, as we all know, Ten Hag was brought in to bring possession-based football, that sort of style. He's completely never done that. And the reality is he does play on the counter-attack.
Sorry.
It's going to be a very similar performance to what we saw against Arsenal, I think. I don't know how the result
And the
will be.
Bayern game, yeah.
But we already see like Højlund driving the ball forward very well, good at doing that, but then doesn't have the players up with him in support, which obviously is understandable because they're sitting back and defending against Man City here. So I think that Man United, to not simplify it too much, Man United's best chance is going to be doing that, nicking something on the counter and then hoping for the best, really.
The thing that's impressed me is when Man United have broke, how comfortable City have taken the ball off of them again. It's like, nah, take candy from a baby. So Man United definitely, when they do get into those positions, they don't look like they're being ruthless enough. City are appealing for a handball. I don't know if that's going to go to VAR.
There was a really interesting moment where the ball went up in the air and Amrabat and Maguire were like clashing into each other, and I think the ball hit Amrabat's back of his head and into Maguire's head.
I think it might have been Lindelof with the header.
Was it?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think
And it was this like calamitous moment of just like watching the team not. It just looks a mess. Like even their positioning now, they're all bunched up in this way where there's no real pattern as to what their get out is. And I feel like one thing that watching Arteta's allowed me to do is understand the patterns of watching a team and where they're meant to be. And like when they're not there, you can tell. With this team right now, it's an absolute mess.
I'll tell you what, the formation we were discussing before the game, I'm still trying to figure out what it is because Rashford seems like he's over here on the right-hand side. Scott McTominay looks like he's quite far up.
Ericsson
looked
McTominay is actually
deep.
playing like a number 10 at times when he's driving forward.
He's been doing that role, and look, he's been scoring a lot of goals for Scotland. Here we go.
We are going to VAR for a potential handball against Manchester United. Harry Maguire is getting his last words in. That means he's worried.
Yeah, this doesn't
You don't want to have all of that when you think you're innocent and you got nothing to worry about.
I don't get why players do that. When the referee's running over to the monitor, what's the point? They're about to go and look at it. You know what I mean? They're about to go and look at it. If he's going to make his mind up on it, he's going to do it no matter what.
All right, let's have a look, lads. What are you saying?
Him turning around and being like, "Oh, do you know what? Sorry, Harry, let me not do that."
Oh, is it for this?
Is it for a push?
Paul Rodri.
Is
that Højlund?
Højlund on Robbery.
I mean, it is a pull,
but
is
not a
it
penalty though?
Do we see it?
It kind of is, man.
Do you think it was that significant contact?
Yeah, it kind
No.
of is.
I'm not having that.
It's soft.
I'm not having
it's
that.
soft.
It's soft, but it's a penalty.
It's soft.
It's soft as fuck.
Brian, what do you think?
Does it go into that area where he's going to be?
Mate,
Yeah, it does.
I feel like the way football's going, we're gonna see that shit given more and more.
Did he need to go down there?
No.
Did he need to put his hand on his torso though?
He probably did, yeah.
I don't think this is a
It's
penalty.
got to be a penalty.
The ref ain't going to give it. He ain't got the balls. It's Old Trafford.
But the problem
Just
is,
show me your
for
balls.
Man United, it's the fact that he goes down and sells it. He's given the penalty.
He's given it.
Oh
No.
my
At Old
days.
Trafford.
I feel for Højlund because, like, how many times do we say that every game?
Yeah.
And
Is
Man
this
United
going to be
fans-
apology territory again? The PGM.
Bro, did you see the Newcastle game?
No.
The penalty we got.
We'll
Yeah,
get
I
onto
saw
that,
that.
Brian.
I'm loving all this drama.
Don't worry, Brian. We'll
Ten
get onto
Hag,
that.
it's gone.
Mate, Ten Hag is going to lose his shit. But I mean, look,
When things aren't
it's
going
not,
for you.
it's not fair. But Man United have been quite lucky a lot lately. So, like, unfortunately, and this isn't the way it should work. But
Did you think it was a pen?
I wouldn't have given it.
Never.
I thought it was soft. I thought it was
If
soft.
I
I'm not
think
gonna lie.
it's not a penalty and it's going against Man United, then you know it's
I
some
thought it
hot
was
shit.
soft. Do you know the reason I think it's soft is because like you said, we see that happen all the time. He didn't have two hands round.
No,
him.
that's right.
Do you know what I mean?
One little, like, you have to kind of.
To give it like off that, I think
It'd have to be nearer to the ball, but the fact is, it's a foul in the box.
It's nowhere
in
near
play.
the ball.
No, but the point is,
Exactly.
it's a foul in the box during play, so it's just kind of like it is a penalty.
But also, like, in order for this to be. To a referee to overlook it, it has to be like you're both going for the ball. The ball's really like it was completely unrelated to the ball. You didn't need to pull it.
Don't say
the
it
ball wasn't anywhere near you.
Imagine. Can I just say? Imagine if Onana saves this.
Stop it.
Imagine if he
I
does.
feel like you know something.
I don't.
Two in a
Imagine if he
couple of
does.
days.
Mate, he's a hero if he does.
It will make it interesting.
I like Onana as a dude. Like, he comes across as a nice guy, but also I think Man United fans have been really gassed up in the last couple of games, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets
do you know what?
exposed.
And I take this with Ramsdale, is that sometimes when goalkeepers get distracted, it's
Going
a
quick with
massive-
it.
Oh,
Easy.
Oh,
Easy.
Haaland.
Corner.
1-0.
Easy.
Ice
City.
cool. from the
Onana
big
got
lad.
sent the wrong way. You know my friend, he's going as Onana for Halloween.
Really?
He is black. Just to
No,
put it out there.
no,
Yeah, just
I was
put it
about
out there.
to ask you. Though. I was
No,
about
he
to-
is black. He isn't
he
doing
gets
blackface.
cancelled, I'm out.
He ain't doing blackface. He's black. But yeah,
That's terrible.
Yeah, that's the point. It's
Quite
horrific.
scary.
Yeah,
Scary.
he's a scary player. He's a
Yeah,
scary player.
What are you going
I think him and Martinez and Ramsdale get too involved in other things, and you just want your goalkeeper to be sturdy. You want to look back and know that what they're doing isn't crazy. I think he just does too many little antics.
Do you know, in regards to this game though, lads, like, of course it's harsh on Man United, right? But if you spend this much time in your own third in the first 25 minutes, shit gonna happen, right? Like, you're gonna bring someone down. Like, you haven't had any relief for, 20 minutes of this fucking 26-minute game.
Who's the man that got brought down as well? Rodri.
Aye.
What did we say they were crying out for in the last couple of games where
Come
we had
on.
perceived them as
Nice,
underperforming?
Rodri.
It's clever
Nice
from Rodri,
dive.
but it's also cheating.
Look at.
It is-
Like,
he
it's
knows,
exactly-
he knows exactly what he's doing.
That's not
There's
really cheating.
absolutely no
The
need.
more I see it, it is kind
foul.
of the more I see it. He was kind of
foul.
stopping him
I
from
know, but
running.
you have to squeal out like a bitch.
That
Yes.
happens at every single Premier League club,
Yeah, it
and they
does,
tell
it
them
does,
to
it
block
does,
them.
it
They
does,
tell
it does
them to do that.
happen.
That
It does
happens all
happen
the
a lot.
time. That's
Can
very soft.
Can I just say something? Side note: how comes we didn't do this episode dressed in Halloween costumes?
Yeah, I never thought of that.
That would have been hilarious.
Where my
If we were
career
all
set
in,
up.
it
We
would
did
have
a
been. That
fight
would have
on
been
live stream
hilarious.
last night. I ain't got time for this. I was watching Francis Ngannou who beat the shit out of the heavyweight champion of the world.
Who would you have come as, Craig?
Bob Marley.
Oh shit!
with the dreads. And I know it's not very Halloweenish,
Mate,
but
I love
No,
Bob Marley.
Americans do fancy dress for Halloween.
Yeah,
they don't even
basically.
do horror.
Ghouls and all that. Yeah, I think fancy dress is better.
Mate, Halloween, let's be real, for all of us, when we started going out as lads, was just an excuse to look at the women dressed in whatever they were wearing. So, yeah.
Still an excuse.
Keep it on.
If you're single like me.
Are you still single, really?
Yeah. No albums over here.
Sorry.
I love it.
Sorry.
More than putting it on him.
No, you know what? It's one of those questions where he's like, why did I say that? I forgot we were filming. Nothing to see over here.
Yeah.
He's got his favourite, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's technical.
Oh,
Craig is just like, my
You're
number
digging a
one.
hole here,
Innit?
mate.
Yeah.
We got
you.
Yeah.
They're
number
definitely not going to be watching.
We got the
this, so it's
squad.
fine.
We got the squad.
Liverpool have won 3-0 getting off that to save you there, Craig.
man.
They've officially won.
Mate,
One
they've been
dangerous,
outrageous
man.
this season, haven't they?
Villa have won again. They've beaten Luton Town 3-1. And Brighton drew with Fulham. 1-1.
Yeah, Brighton are really really struggling.
Do you know this is quite
Doing
embarrassing? Like Man United are literally getting humiliated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
City are knocking the
this is
ball out.
this is becoming a footballing lesson. Like I watched a fight like last night where the Gulfin class was supposed to be massive. The Gulfin class here, all right, we're aware it's going to be a little bit, but we expected it to be like Man United look like they can't get the ball. Like for love nor money.
Because they haven't got people to press. That's a massive part of it. Like to be able to get the ball off of Man City early, you got to be able to press them.
You have to have ambition as well. I don't know if I think Ten Hag plays a really unambitious style.
No.
Like it's a lot of it relies on chance and opportunity rather than forcing those to happen.
Yeah.
You know, like when we look at some of the results have been going their way, even when the performances haven't been, but it's very, very hard for us to sit here now and say a good Man United performance so far this season. How long does the patience for the Man United fans last in terms of, because I get that everyone's talking about the injuries and Ten Hag's got a bit of leeway because he came in, he did above what he was expected to and won silverware straight away. But if we get to halfway through the season and we can still sit here and go, we've not seen a good performance, an actual good performance. We've seen some decent results, but not seen a good performance from Man United. How long until those Man United fans start to turn and go, do you know what, regardless of results, we actually want to see...
I don't even know if most of them know what the fuck they're looking at. Just judge on social media. I'm astounded at how many like Manchester United guys who I follow, they come out with things. Ten Hag's not the problem. I'm like, you must be fucking clueless, you like, because you're literally watching shit every week. Like, as a Newcastle fan, my standards should be way lower than yours. I watch Newcastle, and then I go and watch a Man United game. It's like chalk and fucking cheese, man. I think we're way better than these guys. Like, obviously, at the other end of the pitch, when it comes to potency, Man United have some killers. But I'm talking about general football. They are absolute shite. And I think I'm in a position now where it was like Ollie. Remember when Ollie would win a crucial game? We'd watch Ollie win a crucial game where we all thought he was going to get sacked, and he'd win one, put a couple of results together, and personally, I'd be like, keep him.
Yeah.
I don't want him to go. I don't. When
Hoyland's in. Hoyland's in here. He's got a score.
Nah, he's fucked it.
No.
I feel for him there because actually he did well to make the run.
He's still doing well.
But
that is
I'm at the
such
point
good
now where
opportunity.
with Ten Hag, I'm happy. The longer you keep Ten Hag, the more you're never going to progress because absolutely, this guy has proven to me he's a fucking fraud. And I've watched so many games of football with absolute shite that I just don't know how any Man United fan can honestly watch this and go, oh, it's all the Glazers' fault. When he picked the players he signed, he picks the players every week, he puts the tactics together, and he's just playing like shit every week. It's just staggering to me.
And Dutch managers are useless.
Wow.
Not really any great ones, are there?
Wow.
Harsh, mate.
I'm just thinking,
Oh,
that's why I'm silent. I'm just thinking it through.
Yeah.
Come on, who?
I mean,
No, there's good Dutch managers.
Gus
but
Hiddink.
let's
to be fair, Louis van Gaal was solid at times throughout his career. Like I thought he did good with the Dutch team and whatever, but
I'm more mean in the Premier League.
Yeah.
in the Premier
You're
League,
rethinking this and you're going, there's actually been quite a few good...
Speaking
Nah,
of,
there was one good one.
Rudollet. You didn't say it for
Rudollet.
Newcastle, did you? No, he was terrible for Newcastle.
I mean, Gus Hiddink was very good.
Ruud Gullit dropped Alan Shearer against Sunderland. Had to go.
Yeah.
Had to immediately.
Unforgivable.
I love that story about Alan Shearer turning up at the training ground early the next morning to have a word with Ruud Gullit, and he said, when I got there, Duncan Ferguson had beat us to it, was already smashing the fucking place apart. Because he dropped our two strikers.
Yeah, he
fuck
did.
me.
Yeah,
That was ego 101, that.
he was.
Martin Yole has another shout in the chat.
Come off it. I'm gonna. Would Martin Yole be propelling Man United to league titles? I'm on about if Man United, one of the greatest clubs in the world, want to be going for league titles. I'm just saying, like. Dutch managers.
Yeah. They're giving a nice shout out to Sir Bobby Charlton there, who passed away recently, which so tragic, so sad. But I've got to give credit to Man United as a club. They've done a great job in commemorating his life and what a legend he was. I remember getting my granddad used to talk to me all the time about the Charltons because they were hard bastards from the northeast. And people don't really realise they were from up Newcastle way.
Really?
I always thought they were Irish, but
yeah, they were north of just in Northumberland, which is like up above Newcastle. So they would have probably been Newcastle fans growing up. Like,
it's like now when the camera goes to Fergie and you're like, oh, serious is going on here. Man, you were in a bit of trouble or something like that. When Fergie was in charge, it used to be the camera used to go to Bobby Charlton in the stand. So massively pinnacle figure at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I'd seen this little clip of Jack Charlton talking about his brother being like the best player I ever seen. My brother. I was like, fuck me.
He chokes up as well.
I get really fucking... Because he's got, because Jack Charlton was like the real hard bastard of the two of them. Proper kicked the shit out of every footballer who played. I think he was the Irish manager at one point.
Yeah, he was.
Pep seems a bit anti on the touchline. He wants to kill this off, doesn't he?
It's interesting because no one's really playing well. No one's gripping it. The game.
Onana, I guarantee, I haven't seen the stats, Onana's had more touches of the ball than any other Man United player.
By the way, he just got a yellow card as well, by the way.
For time waste.
I don't know what it was for, but he got a yellow card, so it just shows you he's on a bit of a knife edge now.
It's weird because I actually think he's having a pretty good game, despite the little dodgy spin he did at one point. I thought I was fearing the worst for him when he had so many howlers in a row. I thought you're going to be some sort of like Premier League meme for years to come at this rate.
I still think that's possible. I just don't see him being an surety when he has the ball. I think anything could happen.
Do you think if Man United had Eddie Howe, Brian, that they would be title challenging?
Not title challenging.
Do you think they would be like very clear top four?
No.
I think they'd be better than where they are.
Here's the thing: is Eddie Howe is 10 times the coach than Ten Hag is, and I'm very confident when I say that. When you look at the progression of how many terrible players Eddie Howe's got playing.
And the recruitment.
But I accept the one thing that Manchester United fans always say is it's a different pressure cooker. It is really hard. And Eddie Howe, I don't know, I think it takes a certain kind of manager to make it at Manchester United. And I think he'd do way better than Ten Hag, but I don't know what that would look like. Because I think the thing that helped Eddie was he had the respect of all of the players from day one. But with Man United, the personalities.
Yeah.
I question
Bruno
the character.
Fernandes being yelled at by someone and told to do something and him doing it is...
But it's the character of the whole team, man. I question it all the time, and that's why, I think it's so important now as football managers that you do so much research to... Oh, my God!
What is Harry Maguire doing?
Handball, man.
Was that a handball?
Wow.
What was that? Another Harry Maguire mistake in an important moment? Wow. Unreal.
The reason why, the reason why I don't think Eddie Howe could manage a team like Man United.
That wasn't really Harry Maguire's.
Oh, mate, don't take that away from us. I was enjoying it.
Nah.
No, it was still low, to be fair.
I mean, Harry Maguire does do a dummy in the box. Probably not a good idea.
Wow.
Do you think that Brian, do you think you hold Eddie Howe to a different standard than what you've basically just said? That you don't feel that he could, get solid top four for Man United. And
no, I haven't said that.
And yet you question... Ten Hag's ability to do exactly
You
the same
said title challenge to my ear. Sorry, I don't know if I heard you right. I think Eddie Howe absolutely could get top four with Manchester United. And I don't think it would be that difficult for him. But I'm talking about this season. I think things have changed this season. Last season was different. There was a lot of teams in transition. But I think, here's the thing you can't quantify. That was a bad tackle from
Johnny Evans, you old man.
That's got to be yellow.
Certain players can just raise their game depending on who the manager is. And I right now don't think that Ten Hag is getting more out of these players than any other manager would necessarily.
Do you know what? Where I would say about Eddie Howe, he wouldn't have signed the
Damn right he wouldn't have.
The crock of shit I was going to say, but like he didn't. He's not going to sign those players, and I think he would have looked at players like Maddison, and he would have built a much better established 11. The only where I think he would have been challenged is the type of people that were already there, how he would have gone about managing them to get them on board. Whereas Erik ten Hag was actually really good at getting people on side from these first 6 months to a year, and then obviously now it looks like it's going to.
I think there was still issues though, wasn't there? There was still Rashford dropped for this game, Ronaldo out the door. You know, Maguire isn't happy. There was always issues.
Everyone was on his side up until Ronaldo. And then after that point, all of the decisions that he's made have now been just left at his door. But I do feel like he kind of came in and steadied a ship when it could have been locked.
I think taking over from Ollie was actually a really good contrast for him, because all of a sudden they were in with someone who was very matey with the players and didn't really have the backbone to be able to stand up to players, or that's at least how we thought of him. And then like there was a little thing which I thought was a masterstroke from Ten Hag early on, and it was when Brentford outrun Man United by I think it was about 17 kilometres or something in that 4-0 defeat. Erik ten Hag said, right, you're making up that ground. Everyone's doing that 17k or whatever it was, 14k, right? And you think, oh, it's a bit much. Then you find out that he gets his boots on and goes and does it with them. And I thought, do you know what? That's good. Like, that's a perfect balance of disciplining them and making them make up that extra ground, but also going, look, we're a team and I include myself in that. So when I heard things like that, I thought, you know what? That's discipline in the right way. And it feels like, potentially, when he's got a bit more leverage, feet under the table a little bit more, and a bit more sort of courage because of the achievements he's had, such as the League Cup win and the high finish in the table, then he's sort of overstepped the mark when it comes to this discipline type thing. And I feel like he takes that a little bit too serious now, whereas I think like a modern day manager, a good manager, should understand that management isn't the same as it was 20 years ago. And actually, you do sometimes need to get your arm around a player that ego-wise you might think, do you know what? If I was your dad and this was my household, I'm not having that. But unfortunately, I'm not. This is a team. You're an asset to the club, and I need to get the arm around you at times.
But the very bare minimum he should have, really, I think, at this stage, is just his imprint on the team. Like Brian said earlier, this guy was brought in to play attacking on the front foot football.
Yeah.
That's what Man United want. That's what they demand.
And they're not doing it.
They're not doing that.
When you compare him to Eddie
they're
Howe,
being reactive.
Because you mention him. Do you know how many times we've heard of Eddie Howe having issues with players since he started with Newcastle?
No, but even you were speaking about Anthony Gordon earlier. Remember when Anthony Gordon came off at Brentford? There was a little bit of a touchline thing there. What happens? Nothing. Quashed straight away. Back in the team, performing to a really high level. No big thing in the media. No, I don't know if he was asked about it, but I'm sure he would have been asked about it after that touchline. Little bit of an argument type thing with Anthony Gordon.
But you lot said it early on. But you said it early on though. Like at Manchester United, it's such a different kettle of fish, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, you got players on 350 to 400 grand a week here. You got some of them that might think they're even bigger stars than Eddie Howe in their own right. And I know as the manager, you've got to be able to, handle that and manage that. But I think at Man United, it's difficult.
I understand that, but one thing I can say is I've just said about the lack of discipline in our players has not been an issue. Secondly, these lackluster performances that Man United keep putting on where you're like, you don't even look like you're fucking trying. Do you know how many times that's happened since Eddie Howe came in? Once. One game where I'm literally going, yous haven't even fucking turned up today. It was against Brighton this season. We look like shit. And that's in like over 18 months of football. I see that with Man United all the fucking time, to be honest.
So with Ten Hag, do you think he's an average coach, or do you just think he's got bad man management skills?
Here's the question. What is Ten Hag? Is he a man motivator? I don't think so. He's hardly fucking the most passionate, flamboyant speaker who's going to whip everyone up.
Yeah, when he talks,
is he a tactician?
I
don't fucking think so. So what the fuck is he then?
He's a disciplinarian.
He's a disciplinarian. Okay.
He's a Conte-esque,
how can you be that if he was an Ajax manager, though? Like,
Daniel Levy weren't having him. Was he?
If you've come up on Johan Cruyff total football, I don't understand how this is now your philosophy.
I wouldn't say he's any. I think he's a good all-round coach, and I think he probably touches 7 out of 10 on each of those key.
Is that good enough to be Man United manager?
No, it's not. But at the time, there wasn't very many options as to who could take that job instead of him. So I think he won the luck of the draw. But I think it could get to the end of the season, and they just end his contract and look for something new. Well, I'm not sure if they'll be trusting him to give him another budget in another window in the summer to go and do another year with what he's done so far.
I hear you, but this is what's funny about
Here
football.
We go. Here we go.
Go on.
Kicking off. I'm enjoying that.
Jack Grealish.
Phil Foden and
Put the
Amrabat.
Gucci down.
Having a nice little battle there.
Get the scrap
I've got to
on.
say, Grealish is a little bit predictable today. Every time cutting on the right foot, but it's too predictable.
I'm still waiting for that shiny
Sort of working from though. He's not getting the ball taken off of him all that
Do
much.
you know what it is? I don't know if it's. I don't think as much as City have been on the front foot, had all the ball in the final third. I don't think they've created anywhere near enough clear-cut chances, and the fact that it's only been a penalty that's got their goal.
good enough.
I think for the level of possession they've had and the dominance they've had, they look a little bit out of ideas going forward at times. Again, it's Grealish, the same thing. It's like, there's not enough variety here.
I think they've put the pressure on whenever they've lost the ball. They've put the pressure on very, very well.
I think Man United are defending fairly well. I will give them that. But, you're camped in your own fucking box. What are you going to do? It's pretty straightforward.
I'm still waiting for that shining performance from Foden as well.
Yeah.
I've been singing his
Yeah.
praises.
After
He's been
you
playing a
called him
lot
out.
of minutes
We
this
have to revisit
season.
this. I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
He's been
Craig.
playing a lot of minutes. No, let's not bring up.
I'm sorry, Craig.
Let's not bring up the Bellingham and.
Earlier this season, guys, we had a debate on this show, which was Bellingham versus Foden. And
It's not aged well.
Aged horribly.
No,
for
Foden
me.
would be doing that for Real
For
Madrid
me.
if he was there.
no, we look, and we all rate Foden, but that wasn't the question. It was Foden, Saka, and Bellingham. Sort of what order do we put them in? And I think Bellingham has clearly put himself right at the very top of that tree. Would you agree now, Craig?
100%.
Yeah.
Bellingham right now on form, especially, is probably one of, if not the best player in the world right now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he is the best player in the world. Obviously, you still got your Mbappe's and there's De Bruyne's and players like that. But
Messi.
on form, but Messi's every man. On form, he's definitely the best player. I was saying this before we recorded, right? It's not even just what he's doing at Real Madrid. Like the goals, 10 goals in 10 games or however much it is, 13 contributions? Is it 13, 16? One of the two.
No, it's more than that.
It's more.
It was 10 in 10
all
games
comps.
in the week. When in the
I saw a stat. I think it's 16 in 13 all competitions, right? Incredible. But it was that performance against Italy for me where my jaw was on the floor and I was blown away. Because in the last 10 years, I can't remember a performance for England like that, where I came away going, this guy, the mentality he has, the way he attacked that game, the hunger he had, just G'ing up the crowd in between throw-ins and stuff like that. I was looking at him like, you are 100% future England captain.
Yeah.
Like, this ain't even a debate.
He's
Bellingham
not a
so
Galactico. He is the Galactico.
Yeah.
for Man
Yeah.
United.
I like
Sorry,
that.
around.
Good lyric.
He is.
He's
No,
got
but
10 goals in 10 league games, obviously 3 goals in 3 Champions League matches. So he's
And then
got
3 assists.
13 in 13 with 3 assists.
Yeah,
as well.
16
So
goal
16 goal contribution.
Yeah, insane. The
We're
only
looking
person
for
doing better than him is
someone-
Harry.
He could well be the guy who takes us over the line in international football, praying
Yeah,
for
but
that.
somehow Southgate will make an error.
Oh, don't say that.
Told you, England, he's
Don't
back.
say that, please.
So let's put him on the pedestal where he belongs. Saka versus Foden for the other star boy title. Who do we think is
On form,
in
yeah.
silver position out of those 3?
For me, I would go Saka, and I'd go Saka fairly comfortably because what I say about this is if you're going on about technically who is the better player, I'm not bothered about that because Adel Taarabt technically was one of the best players in the world. It's about how you perform. So for me, on performances over the last sort of catalogue of years that we've had to sort of dissect them from, for me, it is without a doubt Bukayo Saka.
I don't know. I think on form it is Saka. On form. If we're going on form, which is all we can go by.
How far back are you going back?
3 years.
Oh, no. Listen, do you know why?
serious?
No,
I'm being
but
serious.
can I say
Fine
something?
form, though.
Do you know why it's
Fine form.
unfair? And this was the argument I leveled against Bellingham, even though he'd actually been playing Champions League football for Dortmund. Saka up until right now had never
for
played
Manchester
Champions League
United?
football.
Shot
Unbelievable save. Scott McTominay is looking like a number 9 up front
that
for
was-
Man United. He
yeah.
looks brilliant.
I know.
Where's this come from? I know McTominay used to play up front in
No,
the
but he's
youth
been going
academies,
crazy.
but he's been
Has been
so
going
good.
crazy.
Well, that's what you
Yeah.
get when you're Ten Hag and you come in and you trust the old guard like he has. They end up performing for you at some point.
We all know that this is absolutely not a Ten Hag masterclass.
Oh.
That Ten
Hag
Hag has
apart
literally
from
just
doesn't
went,
score.
I guess you're in the number 10 position. And it happened to work, and he's went, fuck it, we'll stay. But
Go with it.
he's having a bit of a Steven Gerrard style position, and it is getting the best out of him, to be fair to the lad. Actually,
Do you think he's on par with Steven Gerrard?
Definitely not. But the position is the Steven Gerrard position, isn't it?
He has come a long way, Scott McTominay, though, because I remember I was listening to something earlier on today where they were talking about Jose using him as a player to beat the Man United board up and say, you need to sign some actual centre defensive mids.
Oh, no.
And do you know what? He was playing so deep, and I think a lot of Man United fans were looking at that and saying, in the academy, he was playing way further forward. And actually, his qualities are not breaking up play and doing short passes. His qualities are arriving late in the box.
Remember how
and
much he was hammered for being one half of the McFred tag team partnership?
But both of them wanted to go forward. Like that was the problem with that partnership. Is they both hated playing a defensive midfield role.
He's a good lad.
Yeah, he actually is an underrated player. Scott McTominay.
He's a good lad.
I think so.
So in terms of the situation with Saka, personally, I would have him over Foden. I think he has more of an elite mentality in those big moments. I'd trust him more. And I think that he's more direct and you're more likely to get your rewards from him. Whereas I think Foden, he's still not got the broad shoulders on him that Saka's developing. He doesn't want to be that main man, and when the opportunity is there, when a Kevin De Bruyne isn't in the side, he doesn't assert himself as, I'm the guy now, enough. He does it, but not anywhere near as much as he could do.
But is it that thing we were saying before of him being in a massive pond with big fish as well? Because it's hard for him to shine and be the star there with Haaland there. Even the players they got, Jack Grealish is £100 million player.
Do you know the reason I would say
Bernardo Silva
is because this season was the chance that there was injuries to Grealish, De Bruyne, and other players like that, where you're like, you really have a chance to stake your claim now as that guy. And I just don't think he's done it.
Bellingham's gone to Spain. He's gone to this pressure cooker of Real Madrid. It's one of the hardest clubs to go to as an English player and make a big impact. And he is not just there to make the numbers up. He's actually sort of like pulling them by the scruff of their neck. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I think Saka has the ability to make that impact on games. And I don't think Foden yet has done it. The key thing for me on this debate is who's getting in the England team.
Oh, what a save from Onana!
Insane.
I've got to give credit. Like, I think he's mental, but that was a hell of a save.
That save was
brilliant.
Yeah, it was a great save.
Honestly,
because that was a powerful header.
What a shot stop that was.
That was
header.
That
And
was
he's
some
shuffled
strong
across
hands
his
from
goal.
a header, like a
It
powerful
wasn't a great header.
He should have put it down the middle though. He could have went anywhere. He went right down the middle.
It was a good save, though.
We got to give credit for that. Yeah.
No, it was a great save. But why has he gone down the middle?
You know, the Foden thing back on that is like, for me, he's such a great player, and against Newcastle this season, he was fucking unbelievable, unfortunately. But he's the guy who gets like the unimportant goals. He's not.
Sterling's good when the game's going well for you.
Sterling is the king of that, by the way. Sterling is the king of when the game's going well, he'll rack up the goals. But when it's like clutch, ride or die moment, they fall into the background.
I think still needs. I'm going to stick by him and just say he still needs a bit more time, because I feel like the players we're comparing him to in Bellingham and Saka, they've been starting for their team for the last 2-3 seasons. Not really missing a game. I think for the last couple of seasons, all the players they had, Gundogan, De Bruyne, all of that, Foden was getting mixed, chopped and changed with Mahrez.
Foden
and he couldn't hold it down.
Starts last season, I think.
30 starts, did he?
I think
honestly,
around there. I think he started a lot.
But did he ever feel like this was still his position?
Oh,
Whereas
no.
this season he's been playing a lot. He's been starting on that wide right a lot. So I feel like if we just give him this season, see where he ends up. But I would say on form, Saka and Bellingham are ahead of him right now.
You put Bellingham in that City team, can you imagine how he would tear it up?
Don't even.
It would be absolutely...
Imagine how
I don't
Liverpool
know
fans
if he
feel.
would though.
Even, come on.
It's the
He
system.
He would.
Come on, lads.
Yeah, he would tear up in any team, to be
No,
fair.
no,
But
I'm not saying that he won't be a really good player. What I'm saying is what he's doing at Real Madrid is because they don't have a number 9. And if they had a number 9, he wouldn't have played in that particular position.
In the diamond.
They would have played in a 4-3-3. He would be way further back. He may not have had that level of impact. So it's quite fortuitous as to why it's happening. Obviously, no one's complaining, but why it's happening. Putting him in Man City in that long line of 4 players that sit behind Haaland, would he?
yeah, but then why is he still doing that for England then under Gareth Southgate's
but he plays
rubbish tactics?
Yeah, but he plays very differently.
Yeah, but the impact he's having is still the same.
No, because he's a top player. But the whole point, his headlines are so big, is because he's got so many goals for a massive team, and he's doing it in big games. But that's because of the situation that he's in. He still would have been playing well at Real Madrid, but would he have got those headlines? Probably not.
I don't even think it's just the goals, though.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just the goals. I think it's just like
It's the goals.
Yeah, and the goals, but it's just his mentality. It's just the way
He
he's
has an
playing.
aura,
like,
doesn't he?
Yeah, like when I'm looking at him score these goals, and Rudiger, Modric, Cruz, these players are running and crowding around him like you're the man.
Yeah.
We're talking about big, proven, 5-time Champions League winning players coming around him like you are the guy that's saving us right now. And he's 20.
And they see more
He's
of him
20.
than we do. They see him
They
day
see
in,
him
day
in
out
training.
on
It
the
feels like
training
he's got
pitch.
all their respect.
Yeah.
And that seems to me a bigger thing than just, oh, you're
That's
coming up
very
with goals.
good observation, mate. Because like when people at Real Madrid treat you like, oh, you're the man now, like, and you're
100%.
20
Well, to
years
be
old.
fair, Tony Cruz didn't applaud his goal. He sat
Yeah, I
there,
saw that.
didn't move.
What did you make of that?
No, he did, but it was late. I watched it.
It was
Like,
late.
towards the end before the camera went, he went, like,
Bro.
everyone else was applauding, and he was like, he didn't like
Because
really.
you remember this being seen, but if he comes to El Clasico and you score and you don't move, bruv, then there's
That was a
something.
bit mad, isn't it?
But obviously he's
That
not.
was a
He's
bit
not
mad.
playing. He's not playing because of the way the midfield is working right now. Cruz ain't playing. He's coming in late. He's coming in to shore up games. He's probably got a little bit of a feeling. He probably
pissed.
still thinks he can start.
Well, you can't, mate. You sit on the bench.
It's half time. We're looking at 1-0 to Manchester City here. Pretty dominant, pretty comfortable, but you're still very much within touching distance if any mistakes happen at the back. I think Pep might be a little bit disappointed that they haven't put the game to bed.
Yeah.
Been
They've had
so
lots
dominant.
of chances.
Yeah, but it's been a lot of like fucking around with it on the edge of the box and they're struggling to make clear cut. And I understand, like, when a team, Man United parked the bus, like they've literally, they've tried to hit them on the counter attack. They've not been ambitious. They've not tried to punch with them.
Isn't that embarrassing though?
At
but
home
At
in the
home
derby.
in a derby.
Is that
and
not
you're-
how Man United play?
Yeah,
Like, do Man United not play this week in, week out though? They love a transition.
Not quite
They
as
like to
not
counter.
quite as bad as
Yeah,
that.
but I mean, that's their
United
strategy.
didn't play a million miles away from this against Sheffield United.
Yeah.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not even bantering.
No, that's true. They were horrendous in that
Of course, they would be better and have more attacking flair than they do in this game, but they didn't play
Mate, they got
tactically a
dominated
million
by
miles away
Sheffield
from
United.
this.
It was absolutely staggering.
But Man United are playing with 6 behind the ball and they've got 4 up front, and so they're trying to hope to counter attack with that 4. But that 6 ain't leaving. They haven't gone outside of their own half yet. They're just staying in that particular place to nullify them. But I just don't think it's good enough. I think you can't. I don't think you can separate your defense and attack in that way so rigidly, because when Man City have the ball, the work rate isn't good enough. They need everyone
I
behind
do
the
worry
ball
though
closing down.
for them later in the game when you're chasing that ball. And Newcastle had this thing on City earlier this season. When you're chasing the ball like that, around that 60-minute mark, those legs start tiring. Like in a 12-round boxing match, right? You can look good for 9 rounds, but then it starts getting long, right? And I think we'll see that in the second half, to be fair.
I think that Pep's probably, when you said, will he be annoyed they put the game to bed? Of course, what manager doesn't want a few more goals? But I think he's looking at the run of play, and he's also probably looking at his options off the bench as well. Like, if you look at Man City's bench in comparison, who they can bring on, they've not got Doku on at the minute, a few of these players that they're able to bring on, I think he's pretty comfortable with how the game's going. And I think that he understands as well that if one team are going to have to go for it more and change the way that they're playing, it's Man United. And what that will inevitably do is leave spaces open for City to exploit.
We're just looking at the penalty incident again, guys. Can we just say that this was a bit of a lucky one?
Let me see. Let me see it one more time.
So I
It's a very minimal amount of contact.
I would agree with what everyone says in terms of, is it a penalty? Yes. If I could change the rules now and go, right, anything like that we don't give because it's too soft, would I do it? Yes. So we sort of tick both boxes with it. By the letter of the law, it is a penalty. Is it soft? For me, yeah. Like, you don't need to go down there.
You look at it here, right? Like, Rashford is being held on the edge of the area just as much as he was as well. Like, there's hands all over the
But
place.
I think the inconsistency comes where, like, fouls that would be next to the halfway line are given, and then in the box they're not. So when we start saying, is it a penalty? A foul is a foul, and university just giving fouls wherever they are, and whatever happens is a much better way of managing a game than just saying, like, but is it a penalty though? Because we make the threshold so high that basically you got to hack them down. Like, I think I was talking to someone last week and they were like, yeah, but if they're running away from the goal, it's not the same. If they're not actually through on goal, it's not. That's absurd. Like, a foul in the box must be a penalty.
It's interesting, isn't it, whether we need to change the rules? Because, like, did that justify a goal-scoring opportunity? Like, that's the key thing. Because let's be honest, you've got a very high likelihood of scoring penalties. I just don't know. I think it's really hard.
It was, even though it was in the box, You weren't scoring that.
No, but that's what I mean.
I
This
think
is
that's a
why
really
the
good
penalty
point.
thing.
Yeah.
Like this is you could see them in the future reviewing things like this, because also for me, like we were talking about handballs recently. There's a lot of handballs where it's like it's not directly going towards the goal. Like you could actually talk about that with the Arsenal
Rodri
one.
wasn't going to get that header. No way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't going to be a necessary goal scoring.
But don't you just think, if he wasn't going to get that header, why is Højlund holding him back?
Fantastic point.
Just like, why do you feel you need to do that at that point? Because he wasn't going to get it. So I just feel like it's about making sure that players aren't trying to steal inches and like get away with little things like that anymore, because a foul has to be a foul and it will become a penalty. And the loss is so great now. And obviously he missed the chance earlier getting through on goal. And I think it just creates extra weight on top of him and his performances and his outcomes, and he'll soon come into question. Because if he doesn't get goals soon, like no one cares how close to Højlund you look like. Like if you're not getting goals, it doesn't matter.
I have to say it's very interesting when you look at the quality of Man City, that they've had to score their goal at the first half with a fairly contentious penalty.
They've had all 11 men in their own box, Man United. Dog.
Yeah, but
Man United popped the bus,
but we're talking about treble-winning Man City. We're talking about one of the best Premier League sides of all time against basically a second-string entire back four for Man United.
No, I get that.
And so they should be going there. This is what I meant before the game. They should be going there and dominating this match.
But they are dominating it.
Yeah, but they haven't in terms of the score sheet, and that's all that matters.
No, I get that. But what my thing is, right, and I know this, look at me saying that as Spurs top of the table, but I know as Spurs playing well how we are now, we're coming up against teams, and you know what it's like, teams that know they can't compete with you in a footballing sense, sitting back, then you're a team that wants to play on the front foot, and you got to break them down. You got to find a way to break them down. That's difficult with lesser teams in the league, like Sheffield or any of these teams. Maybe Sheffield's not a good example right now after conceding 5, but Man United doing that at home, that's going to be difficult to break down. We know if Man United actually want to go toe-to-toe with Man City and try and play a footballing game, this will be 3 or 4-0. But they're not going to do that.
And when you speak about treble,
that's why it's embarrassing. That's why I said to begin with, it's embarrassing, because I'm not saying
embarrassing on Man United.
Yeah, because I'm not saying you got to go toe to toe, but come out a bit more. You're playing like Sheffield.
They've showed no ambition.
You're playing like Luton. You're at home.
They don't have it.
Yeah,
this ain't away from at home. You're at home.
But you're talking about tactics, right? And you're going, right, you've got a very big mismatch in quality, especially from a defensive perspective, right? Especially when you look at the attack that they've got to do against Man United. The quality of Man City. So you're expecting Ten Hag to go, do you know what, lads? I'm just going to play them at their own game. I'm just going to go for Man City and go toe-to-toe and play their
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This isn't the great Man United that's currently in the Champions League, finished in the top 4 last year, has Bruno Fernandes, who they rave on about, Marcus Rashford, who's supposed to be a boy wonder. Like, they've just bought Amrabat, they got Ericsson, they got experience. Like, what are we talking about here? This is Manchester United.
I think
they're in the Champions League right now.
Than what they have been.
They're in the Champions League right now.
There's a fine line between, like, there's a big difference between, you don't have to go gung-ho, toe-to-toe, but these Man United fans surely are watching thinking, fuck me, I thought we'd see
right, if it was at the Etihad, I would completely understand this right now. Camp in your box. Don't even come out of it. Counter with Højlund, Rashford, do all of that. You're at home. Man City aren't even in a good period of form right now.
If this is Jose Mourinho managing Man United, we go, what a great tactical performance.
That's their most successful manager post-Ferguson, by the way. Reality check.
Do you know the bad thing? When you look on the benches, I'm not really blown away by Man City's bench today. Like, when you look
at Doku on there, though.
Yeah, but that's it.
I love a bit of Doku.
No, but that's
who else have they got that could come on and change it?
Phillips, Ake, Kovacic. I mean, it's hardly setting the world on fire, you know? Like, you're not impressed. Like, it's nothing to write home about. So with Man United, you could argue, so they've got
Martial,
Anthony, Varane, Garnacho, Martial, Mount. So they have options off the bench, Man United. It just is interesting to see if Ten Hag decides to twist and be a little more ambitious in the second half, because, bro, you're losing and you're not looking like anything's going to change.
That's another thing that you just, thank you, I even forgot that. Usually when you're playing against a team, especially a smaller team,
they're defending a 1-0 defeat.
Yeah, but usually when they set up to not allow you to score, you're especially away from home, but you're at home. Cool, you've set up to stifle Man City. They've got a lucky penalty. You've got to come out now. Even the smaller teams come out a bit and try and get a goal. You're still steady fast playing counter-attacking.
Do you know what that is,
football.
though? Do you know what that is?
What?
It's the mental weakness of Ten Hag.
It has to be.
It's down to him going. It's not just about today's game, but when you take a hum, you're then thinking heads go. The next game we got to think about, do I want the lads to be able to get confidence go down, or can I hold them to this 1-0 defeat and maybe we might nick a goal, and then afterwards I can go, well, it was close, lads. I mean, they're the best in the world.
Yeah, but then
we go on to the next one, forget about it.
But if it goes 2-0, the problem is, this was annoying about football. If it goes 2-0, then they're going to start chasing the game at 2-0. And then it's like, by then, you're going up a mountain. It's Man City.
Yeah, but I think game management-wise, you want to get to the 60-odd minutes before you start taking a gung-ho, and you want to nick something. And then from there, it's a level playing field.
I'm not saying gung-ho. I'm saying just come out a
but
bit
they
more.
don't
Be a
have
little
the
bit
tools.
more.
I'd quite like to see
What do you
Garnacho come
mean?
on, to be honest. I think Garnacho is quite an exciting little player.
I don't think any of them have the tools.
When is Bruno Fernandes going to step up in these big games? This is what I keep
he
saying.
doesn't.
Everyone raves on about this guy, says he's the truth, all of this. And every big game I look for him, and he never shows up. Never! Yeah. Tell me his time he's shown up in a big game.
He's not a big game player. He's
supposed to be one of the best attacking midfielders in the... He's supposed to be one of the best attacking midfielders in the league.
Superman on a big game, isn't he?
Come on, man. I need more from this Man United team. This is embarrassing. That's how I feel.
Right,
They spent a lot of money and they're at home.
I'm calling it now. Scott McTominay gets an equaliser in the 95th minute.
Wow.
I'm calling it.
He might, you know. He might. The form he's on right now.
I think that would be the winner.
I really
The winner.
think 2-1.
I think we'll level
I
up
can't
in the
believe what we're
70s,
hearing right now.
and then in the last minute, McTominay.
I love this. Let's put
I
some
think
money
that's
on
what
it.
I'm
We'll
going.
make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Who wants Gary Neville?
I'm saying it ends 4-0 City.
Children.
I've got a bit of a moan to have. I'm still not quite over the Tonali thing, for one. And then also Newcastle are playing all right, given the circumstances where we are ravaged with injuries. And we didn't have the biggest squad to start with at the start of the season. But what's happened now with the Champions League and all these fixtures, we're seeing... After the Champions League games, you can see the legs are drained. And because we haven't got enough of a squad, and especially with these injuries now, I mean, so many of them are mounting up. We're giving everything we can, but we're struggling against teams now, and we're getting draws against teams. And credit the lads for not losing, but still, against teams that we should be beating. And we're slipping down, and I'm like, I don't think we're going to make that top four by the looks of it, if we go out of the Champions League now, that might actually save the Premier League season for us, if you get what I mean, because the lads there's just not enough bodies. Do you know what I mean?
I think you're making top four. Top five. If top five, gets you Champions League football, I think you're playing Champions League football.
I really am proud of the way they've been trying, but like I watch Kieran Trippier, and you can see, like, you know, he's 33 now, and you get tired in these games where you're giving 100% for 90 minutes, because Newcastle don't play like, we don't camp out in our own half, you know, we're fucking full throttle.
But I'll tell you the one thing that I look at, and it's not to say other teams haven't got, but you got three things, right? You got more than three. You got a good manager, you got good character within the personnel, and most importantly, you got goals. You score goals.
They don't when Alexander Isak is injured.
Disagree with that.
Is he?
No, I think they do.
No, I'm
not
just saying.
long term.
Isak's injured for a period of another 3 or 4 5 games, I think he's going to be out. But what I mean is...
Did Newcastle's scoring stats go up all that much when Isak arrived?
If you look at the statistics in the season, right now, aside from this game, in terms of goals per minute ratio, the top 2 players in the Premier League ahead of Haaland are Isak and Wilson. And Wilson's actually got the best goals per minute ratio. He's got a goal every 60 minutes, lads.
But Wilson needs Isak to be able to rotate and rest and have minutes and come in. If you're expecting Wilson to play every single game and all the Champions League games and the cup games, is like he could be off.
Throw in the damn towel.
Here we go. Amrabat's coming off for Mason Mount.
I am worried about the old hamstrings of Wilson and like players like Trippier, because they're such key players. But how much can we expect to keep getting out of them when we're playing these massive Champions League games? Like that game against Dortmund, I was very proud of the way we played, even though we didn't get the win. We gave it everything, but we're drained, and it's showing.
Do you think you do business in January? Are you?
Have you seen the rumours of Neves?
Yeah, I think that's just coincidence, isn't it?
Let's go into detail on that. So Saudi Arabia have purchased Ruben Neves to play in their league.
Big fan of Saudi Arabia. Put on great fights, great football.
And apparently now he's not necessarily wanted as much because of a certain injury
Well,
from Newcastle United?
he just needs competitive football. You know what I mean?
Yes. Chill out.
I did love it because all those same people who are delighted that Tonali got the ban were also raging at the cheating that Newcastle were doing by bringing Neves. But I'd take Neves, absolutely. Like, I mean, do you think there'd be a lot of outrage? Here's the interesting thing for me is people are acting like it's the first time that we've seen club owned by the same company, like a Man City, New York City, and all of them, do club trading. Like,
Yeah, why
picture
not?
Mate,
Salzburg.
I remember when it broke my heart. Frank Lampard going to Man City.
Yeah.
Obviously, he went to the team in the City group, didn't he? And then
Yeah.
he gets loaned back to Man City, ends up scoring against Chelsea. This happens all the time.
You got Leipzig doing it all the time.
Yeah, we're loaning players to Salzburg left, right, and centre. Vitesse used to be our sort of not feeder club, but the club
Vitesse,
that we
yeah,
would
yeah.
Vitesse. We would send players out there to nurture them. Mason Mount went there at points. This is
If you
not
can do it, do it.
anything
Take
new.
advantage of it. If you own the clubs, do it.
Yeah.
Why not? I don't see a problem with that.
It's just that there's a spotlight on this exact situation.
Do you know, I'd see a problem if, let's just say, Saudi League went and got Mbappe and then traded him to us and we won the Premier League. That's a major change. And everyone would have a right to be in uproar about it.
No,
Okay, but let me
No,
ask
but let's
this,
be
right?
honest, it stinks.
Let's say, for example, right? Let's say, for example, the league that you're getting it from and the owners and whatnot aren't owners with maybe a bad reputation when it comes to human rights and stuff like that, and aren't mega rich and things like that. No one's saying anything. No one's saying a word. It's because it's the Saudis. That's why
I
there's.
think it's also
shadow
because it
over.
symbolises what potentially.
Oh.
Good shot from the from distance. Was that Bruno?
Yeah.
that was a decent
Big
shot.
game
to be fair.
player.
I think it's because of what it symbolises in the future. If they can break the rules once, then what else can they do? And people are very fearful of Saudi money, and understandably so. I mean, we're saying with what they did last night, they had fucking everyone at the boxing. Everyone was bought and paid for, and it just gives you a taste of what they're capable of.
Yeah, I was.
But I don't think Neves is anything to worry about on his
Everyone's
own.
very fearful of it, but I tell you what, when anyone's club's up for sale, you're wanting the Saudis to come in and buy you, aren't you?
Yeah.
I would be.
I was
You know what I
getting
mean?
FOMO
Like,
from
the
Saudi.
Man United fans wanted the Qataris. Like that is just the way it's going. I think it'd be massively hypocritical.
We've just seen a crossing at the back post and Phil Foden blasts it wide.
got to take it on his right
It
foot.
would have been easier to score this, in my opinion. Let's say how bad a miss
Takes
is
it on
this?
his left. I don't
It's
understand that.
bouncing.
Yeah, but take it on your right foot.
I mean,
This isn't as easy as we think.
I'm not saying it's easy. A player of his quality, you'd kind of want to whack it in with the right foot.
Yeah,
left
maybe-
is a
I
weird
don't know
choice.
why some players are so one-footed sometimes. I don't understand.
Isn't he right-footed though?
I think he is.
Nah, he's left-footed.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of one-footed players, when we seen Anthony in this game, is he coming off the bench anytime
Wow.
soon?
He doesn't even have
That's
another
the
leg.
best
What a
segue.
segue.
That's the
look
best
at
segue
Man
I've
City's
seen.
stats when they've winning at half time. The
Right.
last 49 games, they haven't lost.
We're not letting Newcastle off though, right? We're still talking about them. You should have probably lost the game though yesterday, shouldn't you?
Yeah,
After the
I
penalty
felt lucky.
decision.
I felt really lucky.
What
I think
happened with that?
There was a dodgy penalty where Fabian Shaw sort of takes the ball on, and there's a silly move by the Wolves lad who gives him a knock, and he takes the foul and goes down. But it did look contentious as fuck. I'm not going to lie. Oh, this is easy. Man United
goal.
cut apart.
What a goal.
a goal. Manchester United, since they've come out for the second half, have been put to the fucking sword. They've not had the ball.
It's a good goal.
Okay, can I change my prediction now?
Good.
It's on camera.
That overlap from Bernardo
Can we
Silva,
accept
we
all
saw
that?
it coming a mile.
Man United have barely had a kick to the ball in the entire fucking match, but
No.
the City have just gone up the gear and went, right, we're going to blow you away now. So enough's
What?
enough.
How did they not see this overlap coming? Watch this. This is like ridiculous. Like it was textbook,
Craig,
and they
you-
still
you-
let it happen.
There's an
You
overload
were saying about
on the left-hand
them.
side.
You were saying
About-
about them pushing up a little bit more and being a bit more sort of expressive.
Yeah, but look at
themselves a
this.
bit. Look at what happens when they do push up.
I saw that coming a mile off, and it still happened.
Where is Dallo there, by the way? Because that was Bruno as in a right back position.
They're
Trying to
all
defend.
over the shop. And
They're
do you know what?
defensive.
Right?
Ireland, three at the back post.
Of all the players, you leave free at the back
Acres of
post.
space.
The man the size of the Eiffel
this.
fucking tower. You can't miss him.
Yeah, the defensive shape was terrible.
That was insane. They just, that was too easy.
It's naive.
When we were
what
talking
it is.
about like, is he a good tactician? Yeah,
Bollocks, mate.
He's not. There's
absolute
no
horseshit.
doubling up. Everyone was in the wrong place.
There's only room for one
Mate.
bald.
West Ham
Titan.
lost. Man United losing. If Chelsea had won, we could have gone up to 8th.
Wow, the lofty heights,
Dizzy. We're getting nosebleeds in here.
isn't it?
I love it. I love it. You know, it is sickening though when your team fucks it and you're like, oh, Yeah,
I know.
there was an opportunity.
Can we talk quickly about Tonali then? Give your feedback
the more
on the ban.
it goes on. So he was given a 10-month ban. Ivan Toney was given an 8-month ban. And it's very confusing because there's no justification given by the authorities to the public, which I think is only fair. Like, if we're going to support football clubs, we deserve to know what the criteria is for why one betting ban is giving longer than the other. And the actual problem with it, in my head, is that there's different people giving out different bans. So Ivan Toney, I believe, was given out by the Premier League, and now Tonali's was given out by the Italian league, but then FIFA sanctioned it. So there's a lack of consistency because they're coming from completely different people, and I do feel like we've been a bit hard done by here because by the accounts that we've been given, and again, I don't know everything, Ivan Toney was suspected of a bit of wrongdoing because of suspicious behaviour in football matches, which didn't add up. Tonali, on the other hand, has not been suspected of any wrongdoing on the football pitch. Obviously, off the football, as in corruption, as in betting on himself to get a yellow card, or do it, or
He
give
bet
it.
on his own team, Brian.
Yeah, he bet on his own team to win, Josh. Are we going to use first name, Josh? Badgering the witness. We're badgering the witness.
So wait, but you can't say that because he bet on his own team.
No, but
Right.
here's the beautiful thing about context is it does actually make a difference. And that's kind of what I'm referring to is there is no context. Like with Ivan Toney, I know that there was talk on Twitter about this looks suspicious, but even still with Ivan Toney, I have no knowledge of whether he really was a part of corruption. All I know is he bet. That is it. So if he bet, Tonali bet, then why is Tonali getting 2 months more?
The other thing as well is you look at the speed of the process, like how quickly the Tonali one went through.
Outrageous.
And it's like, okay, guilty, fine, gone through very quickly. With the Ivan Toney one, he was playing football for God knows how many months was he actually playing
Quite a
football
long
for
time, yeah.
while it was ongoing, winning points for Brentford, points that could then potentially affect the
Send
title
other
race,
teams
affect
down.
other teams going
Yeah,
down
but I
and
think
things
I
like
think that's
that.
why it looks extra worse on Tonali though, because it's like what you spoke about before. This guy clearly knew and was lying about it this whole time.
No, I don't know if he. I mean,
You don't think he did?
I don't know if he knew he was being investigated. There's a difference. So what we're led to believe is his mate got investigated, his mate copped to it, and then pointed the finger at Tonali as a way of getting a reduced sentence. So let's just say he got an extra couple of
Snitch.
months.
Yeah, use the word mate lightly.
Oh yeah, the absolute snitch, right? But
Gunner.
the point is with Tonali is, let's say he got that extra couple of months. That extra couple of months could have been so key to our season because it gets us to close to January. Then we get the replacement. Then we're not down to basically the bare bones of a midfield. And I just think that Tonali's been treated unfairly based on everything I'm saying there. And I know people will be like, oh, the rules are the rules. Fair play, the rules are the rules. But surely if the rules are the rules, then the rules should be carried out in the same way for everyone.
You know, like, no one could have foreseen what was going to happen with this whole betting scandal with Tonali. But when you look at the money you spent on Tonali, and obviously we spoke before about the money that Maddison cost, the money that other midfielders were sort of brought in for. Even like, not saying he's a replacement, even like a Mason Mount was cheaper than a Tonali and things like that.
Yeah.
No one could have foreseen what happened here. But you must look at that, and that must be a little bit extra sickening to think like we sort of blew all of our transfer budget on you. You guys had to bring Lewis Hall in on a loan just to be able to get it over the line because of financial fair play. So it's even more sickening.
Our entire transfer window now looks bad, and I have to admit, love Eddie Howe, and I think as a coach. And everything he's done has been brilliant, but that last transfer window, in retrospect, has not worked out well. And two of them are not his fault. Tonali isn't his fault, and Barnes isn't his fault. An injury and a ban like that, you just can't see that coming. But the fact that we've spent a combined amount of roughly 70 million on Livramento and Lewis Hall, and then when clearly in games we've got fullbacks who are looking tired, and you're not giving them opportunities. And the other day, we brought on a left
Target.
Target, thanks, mate. Target came on for Newcastle, and I'm thinking, if I'm Lewis Hall, and I've decided to leave Chelsea because I think that my future at Newcastle is going to give me more first-team football. And from everything I've seen of Lewis Hall, he looks twice the player that Target is. Not saying that Target didn't do all right when he came on, he did. But I'm very confused because we've spent so much money and yet none of it is on the football pitch. And it's just fucking insane that. Like, and I think if there's one thing that people were more questioning of with Eddie Howe pre-signing for Newcastle was the transfers. Remember, Jordan Ibe didn't work out very well. So up till now, his transfers have been immaculate. But that last summer hasn't gone well. And I think in January, you need to put that right and show that you've rectified some of those mistakes.
I'd point to the Anthony Gordon case as well, because if you look at that as a bit of a case study, first 6 months for Anthony Gordon in terms of when he was brought in that January transfer window, he wasn't setting the world alight at Newcastle. And it's not like, he was having the sort of hopes hung on him, because Newcastle were doing very well. They were very successful at that time. And then once Eddie Howe sort of had that time to mould him, a young player, much like Lewis Hall, much like Livramento, now you're really seeing like it come to fruition.
The saddest thing is I think we're really missing the best of Tonali. I think Tonali would have followed in that. Like, there's glimpses of him. Not enough. Good save.
Another good save from by Grealish.
Grealish cutting on the right hand, on the left side, and with the right foot again. He's been trying that whole game. It's not quite come off for him.
Were you surprised by the reception that Tonali got? Do you remember when he walked around, when he was getting subbed on, in the Champions League, he got like standing ovation?
It was after the game.
Do you know what? I think that might be surprising to a lot of people, and a little bit to me as well. Like, I think I'm interested in what the lads think. Like, when Tonali's been banned for 10 months for betting, and now we're going to lose him, and he gets a standing ovation from the fans. What do you make of that?
I wouldn't have been giving him a standing ovation. The fact of the matter is he knew it. He knew he was betting. He came to Newcastle knowing that he'd bet, knowing that he had this that was going to loom over him eventually. Because quite frankly, you always get caught on these things anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
and he was quite happy.
But
I mean,
just a quick one before you go on. Sorry, mate. Do we think that there's a good chance in all of the football teams at this table right now, there's a bettor in there who is currently hiding the fact he's betting? Because I think there's every chance that there is.
Yeah.
I don't know about every team.
And by the way,
most.
When one of your lot gets caught, I'm keeping the same fucking energy. Yeah. I'm telling you. I want a ban for 10 months.
When Tonali came in, everyone was saying, he doesn't look happy, probably the weather up north. He's just done his bollocks on a 16-team accumulator. That's why he's not happy.
That's the thing.
Let's go back to the cheering. What did you make of it?
But the thing is, like if I was Newcastle now, I'd be going down every single route I can to find out whether he and Milan knew about this betting scandal. Because if they did, but there's some litigation that's going to happen.
And also really messy, because then by the time they would do that, say, how long does that process take? If that process takes 10 months or something, by the time they do that and prove it, he's available to play for him again.
Yeah, but I want compensation. It's all about getting the money. Like, arguably, you should be allowed some wiggle room in the FFP.
I think that would be fair. For me, when I first heard about it, I was angry. I was confused. It was like talking to an ex-girlfriend.
Like you got cheated on. Yeah.
But then,
Maguire, you see what Maguire did to Haaland?
we're seeing
Got Maguire and Haaland here.
What did he do?
Look.
But what I do want to say is, in the cold light of day and having time to calm down, I know this might sound a bit weird, but I thought, who hasn't made a mistake and who hasn't thought, oh fuck? And I think he must be feeling that right now. And I think there's such a lack of forgiveness for something that isn't actual corruption. It's against the rules, but I think those rules are way harsher than they could be because they're scared of corruption. And I understand that there's that issue of you need to punish him to put people off. And there's I don't know if there is a right answer. I don't know if there is a right amount of months. But for me, it's total lack of forgiveness, and like it's just such a harsh punishment. And I'm looking at this lad going, you're now sitting on the couch for the next 10 months when you're an athlete. That's going to be really bad for you. And that's mentally, when you're an athlete and you're used to giving everything and getting that buzz, the endorphins, all of that's going to stop. It's going to be really hard for him. And I just thought, yeah, I'm going to give him a pass on this, providing one thing. When he comes back, I'm going to be on his fucking case, because if he's not putting in performances immediately, I'll be the first one. But I'm going to give him a pass for this.
I think it's real testament to your fans, though, for supporting a player like that when in reality he may have known more than he was letting on. And I think it does show that like your fan base, unlike a lot of other fan bases, would support a player like that.
Well, what I will say is Newcastle are in the Champions League. We're in the top 6. If we were in the relegation battle, not sure the sentiment would be
empathy
quite
would
the
be
same.
there. Look, I feel
yeah.
like he's got more empathy than Ivan Toney ever did, and I'm not quite sure why. But the reality is that he broke the rules that are incredibly well established, and he did it internationally, and then came here. And I would definitely feel, I think you're right in terms of like there's a real question mark of wanting to know and understand in your future dealings with Milan, but also understand that in the come up as a big club, you get ripped off by other clubs. They 100% know that was an issue, and then selling him as quick as possible. So when we all sat there and was like, why is he going to Newcastle? That doesn't mean that Newcastle is a terrible team. It's just that Italian midfielders don't leave their homegrown clubs in their prime to go play in the Premier
Milan
League.
as well,
The
wasn't
Italian
it?
clubs do this, mate. They sold us Mutu and they knew what he was up to.
Yeah, they 100% knew what all of his behaviours were. We all talked about Sven Mislintat and Raul Tonali. There's this mysterious need to get rid of him under a cloud
Italy's
of
the most corrupt league in world football.
it's just like football has corruption at the highest level. So it isn't. I'm sure we're getting presented a nice version of it. We don't know what it's connected to.
Can we talk about the difference in attitude for Tony and Tonali? Because personally, I'm on Newcastle Twitter, right? I say it just comes up in your For You. And they were backing him, but everyone else was saying, love it, can't wait to see him banned. They were delighted.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of hatred. And I think partially because of the fact that Newcastle are now a team to be reckoned with, whereas Brentford, I don't know if anyone really was that bothered. But I didn't know if there was a change in how people were treating each other.
Probably similar to you, on my Twitter feed are loads of black journalists and black professional football players and people in and around the game. So I know from their perspective, they're looking at it as a health issue because we understand how those things can impact you. That doesn't necessarily dissolve you of the responsibility. And he did that interview with Stephen, and he never really held full accountability for what he did, which for me is like, yes, you can have a health issue and take accountability and just sweep it under the carpet and try to move forward. But I felt like he was explaining why he thought what he was doing was innocent. I think that's just a cloud for me. But it did feel like generally there wasn't this condemnation like for Tony in the same for Tonali in the same way there was for Tony.
I'll be real as well. It's just listening to it. It's funny because we actually did the first interview with Ivan Toney once it got announced at Kick Game. But then when he came in, he didn't say anything. Like I was pushing him for the answers. And he was kind of just sitting on the fence. And to be real, we actually edited some stuff out. Like his agent told us to edit some stuff out because it wasn't the right answers. Yeah, I know, it's mad. And then
what stuff?
Basically, he tweeted, "I'm going to speak when it's the right time." And do you remember? And then Piers Morgan retweeted and was like, "Come on our thing." And then I retweeted and was like, "No, scrap Piers Morgan. Come over on this platform." So he came on and then I asked him about it and he was like, yeah, I'm going to speak when it's the right time. And I was like, well, no, that's why we brought you in, because you said that on Twitter. Now, he kind of mugged us. He was like, well, no, I'm going to speak.
And then he goes,
and then he ends up going on Stephen Bartlett's thing, you know what I mean? And then...
The thing about it, I think that the way the narrative has came across is really interesting, because the narrative around Tonali is, I'm an addict, and mental health and all of that, right? And we can all speculate on how true that is. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But what I will say is, I think it's been sold well to the public.
100%.
He's kept his head down. He said nothing. And there's a lot of emotional photographs come out of him and Trippier with his arm around him and that sort of stuff, right? And it as fans, we feel things, right? Whereas when Ivan Toney sits there and justifies it and explains it away.
But that was way after, though. That was way after.
No, fair enough. That is way after, and I do think that initially there may have been. I don't know. Like I felt like Tonali got the boot in just as much as anyone did.
I don't think he did. I'll be real. Looking at it from the outside in, I'll piggyback off what you said. I do feel like, from a media perspective, it felt like he was treated a bit more nicely than Ivan Toney. From what I saw personally, I thought the way the newspapers and everyone was kind of getting onto Ivan Toney, it was becoming a very big deal. And maybe that's because he was playing for England as well, and that scrutiny comes when you play for England. Definitely, the media latch onto that. But I feel like the way Tonali one's been treated, they've been reporting on it, but I haven't seen. I don't know. It just feels a bit more. There's been a bit more class and empathy towards Tonali.
Maybe Tony was almost. The fact that Tony had to go through it first, maybe people realised afterwards, I don't know, we need to act a bit better and realise that this is happening more and more, and maybe this is a serious problem.
Yeah.
But what I would say with Tonali, and there's also the race element, which I'm sure plays into it.
Yeah, and when you got a tattoo on your neck, you know how people look at things. Unfortunately, stigmas and stuff like that. Like if Tonali had tattoos on his neck, or like Mudryk has one, people might be looking at things differently as well. These are all factors that play a role, I think.
One thing with Tonali, I hope he doesn't do. If he ever does an interview where he explains it away and basically tries to justify it, at that point for me, I'll go, well, you're not actually holding your hands up and being accountable and acting like someone who has a problem. You're kind of using the mental health addict thing, but then you're kind of saying, well, actually, it wasn't that bad.
With the Tony interview, though, like when Tony actually spoke on it and gave the interview, he'd already had the ban, so he knew what the punishment was.
Yeah.
So is there any chance there that he's thinking, well, you're giving the ban, so nothing I say now is going to change anything anyway, so I might as well actually speak how I want to speak.
I got one more question for the Chelsea boys, because you're heavily linked with Ivan Toney. Right? Now, for me now, as a Newcastle fan, I'm thinking every player we get, we got to fucking screen them for... Do you have a gambling problem? Can I just be fucking clear, yeah? Like,
I think everyone needs to do that now.
Yeah, and
That's
I think more
football
clubs
is.
than ever will be. But is there a bit of a worry that this could happen again when you sign a player like Ivan Toney?
I think there's always a worry if someone's got history, if they've got form for that sort of thing, but I don't think... again, right? It's like when, say, for example, to use a boxing reference, it's like when Conor Benn fails the drug test. Eddie Hearn's probably sitting there thinking, well, at least we've got a while until anything like that happens again. What happens? Dylan White, the next big fight. So, obviously, the main thing that I would sort of bank on there is I'd think, surely it's not going to happen again with him. Do you know what I mean? But then you could be in a situation where if we signed him and we hang our hopes on him and it does happen again, we're almost thinking, how did we neglect the chance that was a possibility? The fella's come out and said he's a gambling addict. But...
I really think no one's thinking about that.
No, desperate times call for desperate measures. So I'll take him.
I guess you've got to gamble.
I just find that hilarious as well. As we're talking about this, I'm watching the game and you can just see Betfred advertising around the advertising
That's a joke,
boards
man.
everywhere while we're talking about this. It's like there's
the
no
idea that
accountability.
players aren't allowed to bet is absolutely laughable.
It was a bit
in
like
that sense.
I just think there's no
irony.
accountability from the higher ups in football, that want all the advertising money from these betting companies. They throw it in, customers' face, pundit, like everyone's face. And then when players turn around, okay, we know you got to show some discipline. You're an athlete. You're in a very nice position in life playing football for one of these top clubs. But still, they are human beings. I do empathise with them a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
Josh?
That sort of irony's all over football, isn't it? Like, you remember the Qatar World Cup? Qatar World Cup, who was the official sponsors? Budweiser. Yeah. You're not allowed to drink in the ground. Do you know what I mean?
They might as well just start advertising cigarettes and vapes. Like, what would we do? Like,
They don't need to advertise vapes. Everyone's on them.
Are you worried about a reoffending of Ivan Toney if he signs for Chelsea?
I'm less worried about that, to be honest with you. I'm more worried about him basically being a flop at Chelsea. I could just imagine us taking another player like that in what's meant to be the prime of his career and just ruining him.
We've got enough to worry about over it.
That's why I'm
This
really
is all
worried
after
about.
yesterday. The jadedness in your voice right now.
Ivan Toney would perform.
I have to say,
Yeah, he
right?
would.
I have to say, if you gave me a choice, I'd rather spend double the amount of money on Osimhen if we could.
Really?
I wouldn't.
Osman's not going nowhere.
I wouldn't rather spend the money on Osimhen. I just think like that Premier League experience and the proven track record in the Premier League is worth its weight in gold.
He's got the mentality as well.
I'm going to say this now and get ready to clip this up because it's going to be horrendous. I would rather have Tammy Abraham playing for Chelsea than Ivan Toney.
All right,
Why?
you have to explain why. You can't just
Why?
say
What stylistically, what part of his game makes you look at Tammy and thinks, yeah, I'd bring him back?
This is no discredit to Ivan Toney at all. I think he's a very, very good player. But I just think that we know, like, Abraham at Chelsea is a known entity. We know what he's going to do. We know how good he is. We know what his weaknesses are. I just think that Toney hasn't taken that next step on, and I worry about what the pressure and the mentality side of the game is going to be able to do, and whether he's going to be able to do it at that next level. Like, let's be honest, Rashford's in here.
But he's not going
to
to...
go.
Rashford's missed the sitter. Oh, and he took it down so well. He did the hard bit on the chest, turns, blasts it wide.
How many times have we seen this where there's been an amazing player that's played for a mid-table club, maybe sort of pushing on the European places, and then they make that big money move and they're not what you
But I feel
expect.
like he's stepped up his whole career. He's been one of those players that's kind of like proven doubters wrong his whole career. And he's played in the Premier League, like you said, so it's not too much of a...
Done it against the big... This isn't...
He's been scoring against
Danny
big teams as
Danny
well.
Ings or Ricky Lambert going to Liverpool.
More importantly than that,
Ivan Toney scored 20 goals in 33 games last season.
And when you say about Tammy Abraham, that sort of comparison there, the only thing you can say is we know what Tammy Abraham does in the Premier League, because the Chelsea Tammy Abraham played at is not the Chelsea of today. It's a completely different personnel in terms of the squad, completely different manager. They got the same ground. They got different owners even since Tammy was last there. I don't think you can look at Tammy and go, well, we know what he does at Chelsea. I think there's more certainty with Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney has got something about the way he plays. Like, I'm disregarding what he does in interviews and things like that in personal life. Just the way he plays, the way he carries himself. He's one of those players, which I was making a comparison, and please do not think I'm comparing him to this player. But when Alex Ferguson knew he needed to win the title back off Manchester City, he brings in Robin van Persie. It's an absolute sure thing. Now, on a much, much lesser scale, Chelsea are now in a situation where we know we need a goal scorer if we're to get ourselves back into European football. And I think that is that sort of comparison I can make there. Bring Ivan Toney in, and I think, like Brian said to me yesterday, doesn't solve all of our problems, but it helps.
What I'll say is this, knowing both of them as well, right? I think Tammy Abraham, he's a good striker. I rate Tammy Abraham. But I think him coming through the Chelsea Academy and coming up in that way, he was always billed as like a good player. Whereas like, it was almost like a luxury. Whereas you got players like Ivan Toney, where they've come up through the leagues.
Oh, it's Erling Haaland. It's a good save from Onana.
Onana's having
He's
it
been
off.
very good.
That was a good save.
Onana's having a good game, and they're losing.
And they're still losing 2-0.
Because it could easily be 4.
But what I was saying about Ivan Toney is, I think when you've had these opportunities to come up through the leagues, and then you get the opportunity to play in the Premier League, and then you get a ban like this, once you get back in, your mentality, and it seemed like when I was speaking to him, he was saying this, is I'm not going to fuck this up now. Like, I'm going to get a second chance. Me coming back in January, wherever I end up, is a second chance, and I can't fuck this up now. Like, this is the mentality. He seems like he has that mentality now where he wants to go on and win.
The idea of Abraham over Ivan Toney.
So the other X factor here is that he hasn't been playing for 8 months. He hasn't been able to train. He hasn't been involved in football. He's not allowed to step on the pitch.
He has been playing.
Yeah, but he's not.
He's been playing for Brentford B team.
He's not. Well, I mean, bloody hell. Let's get the investigation. Yeah, it's not that. Well, that's not technically allowed. So let's get the guys involved on that. But
no, let's not. Josh, let's not get him involved. We want to sign him.
I just think there's a big gamble here where you've got a player of his age that is going to be coming back from a big layoff.
Josh.
Sorry.
Abraham scored 8 goals in 38 games last season compared to 20 and 33 with Ivan Toney. And I think with Abraham, I know you understand his negatives and his limitations, but like, for me, Ivan Toney is one of the most complete strikers in world football. Like, and I literally look at his game and I go, where is the weaknesses? I don't think there is any. I think there's things that he's not as good at, but he's a complete striker, this guy.
By the way, 20 goals in 33, he was doing that. Half of them were knowing the ban was coming.
Yeah.
So the mental fortitude to be able to even still perform. A lot of players, when they know that ban's on the horizon and they've just been left out of a World Cup squad because of it and stuff like that, it can affect them. He didn't care. He was still banging goals.
The one thing that worries me about Toney, and that does give some sort of weight to Josh's side of the argument, I think, is Ivan Toney did kind of come out of nowhere and he did hit form, and sometimes that form can just. We've seen Marcus Rashford, right? It can just turn off, turn on.
Meet
right?
you.
And
unbelievable player at Swansea. Scored loads of goals.
Yeah, there's
one season wonder.
But personally, I don't think that's what is the case with Ivan Toney. But it is a risk. I think that's a fair point.
No, these players are playing for their livelihoods, man. This is like, I'm telling you, it's a different level of hunger.
Like Tony's too close to someone like an Nketiah with just like a few more years in him. I just don't see him as someone that's going to take you to another level. The best
saying that after he scored a hat-trick is hard.
No, I know, but the best forwards that we've seen for Chelsea specifically, like Diego Costa, and we look at Drogba, you're like, they're just like meatheads. You know what's going to happen with them. They're going to take out 2 defenders, their own coach if they have to get the ball. And I just don't see Toney as that guy. Like, I don't even really want him at Arsenal.
Why not?
No disrespect. I don't want him at Arsenal either because I want killers. I want people who are going to be in Champions League.
More of a killer than the 2 you've got up front.
He was very ready to go to Arsenal. You saw that interview with Stephen. He was saying, "No, like I've always followed Arsenal. I think they're a great club. Like he's ready to go." He was.
But the thing is, because
he was glazering.
You've had a killer in Kane. You've had killers in Drogba and Diego Costa. We've had Thierry Henry and Robin van Persie. You know when the ball is like on the edge of the box and they just lay it out. Yeah. You know where it's going. You know what's going to happen. That feeling that you have as a fan is important.
Son is still a killer as well, by the way.
Would you say, can we also say, like, maybe Watkins is the better option? Like, if you're comparing the two, like, Watkins is doing it right now.
I'm surprised that I'm hearing Toney compared to these kind of players. I
must have been watching something different because I don't think Ollie Watkins, I don't think Tammy Abraham, I don't think any of these.
I think they're all good strikers. I just think that Toney's a complete centre forward. He can do everything.
I think because of, obviously, look, Callum Wilson's numbers are very impressive, but because of the injuries, I think that Ivan Toney's by some distance, the second best striker we've got for the national team. Like, I think Ivan Toney... And again, when we speak about players come out of nowhere, the Michu thing, like, I get the comparison, but Ivan Toney's not a one-season wonder. He's done it for a couple of seasons in the Premier League, in the Championship before that. Obviously, even at Peterborough...
Championship.
Yeah,
that's not Chelsea, Arsenal, City, United level.
It's not, and everyone can go, well, that's absolute, flash in the pan. But Jamie Vardy was doing it down in the lower leagues. Ian Wright was doing it down in the lower leagues.
I don't think Jamie Vardy, if he'd got that move to Arsenal, would have done anything significant.
If Jackson was good enough to get bought by you lot and played for you lot, right? And how many goals did he go and score over in the league? What was it?
10. 8 in his last 10.
Oh, come on. Then why can't Ivan Toney get a shot at playing for... Why not?
That's fair, but you can't come to Arsenal.
I think a good idea for Chelsea
Your
now is
strikers
to
aren't
go,
even all that.
We need a bona fide striker who's going to put the ball in the net when we create chances. And if there's a Costa Drogba level player at some point, then we'll get him. But to find those players, it's fucking nightmare.
That's what we're ignoring. There's not those players out there. So if you simply ask yourself the question, the chances we were saying we put on the plate for Jackson yesterday, does Toney score them? Yes. Probably most of the time. Do you think the Ollie Watkins has more of a chance of putting them away than Ivan Toney? I don't. Do you think that Tammy Abraham has more of a chance of putting them away than Ivan Toney? I don't either. So I think that when you're looking at realistic, we could all say, yeah, but we need a Costa. Where are they?
What about Braha? What about
Osimhen? Osimhen is the one.
I look at strikers coming over even to Chelsea from Italy, and I'm like,
Chelsea's
Shevchenko.
not.
What about your other striker?
Brother,
Yeah.
he's coming back from a career-threatening injury.
He might never be fit again. Like,
Really? That bad?
Well, like basically, he's just come back. He's got swelling on his knee after playing one game, half a game.
What about Spurs, lads? Let's talk about Spurs. 'Cause it's about time we put the pressure on. Mitch, who was avoided admitting you're fighting for this title.
But Brian, the other day on Friday night, he just said, I've watched the game. We've got our 3 points, 5 points clear, and I'm switching off for the rest of the week, and I'm going to enjoy it. And he still won't admit that you're in a title race.
Because we're not in the title race. 10 games.
And they asked Postecoglou, and they said to him, "Can you win the title?" And he goes, "Well, unless you show me a rule saying we can't, then yeah."
He never said that. He said, let the fans dream. That's what he said. That's what football's about.
He didn't say that.
Did he say that in another presser or something?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
that
what
was when he was on the pitch. When he was on the pitch and the Sky team asked him. He said, I think it was Neville or someone put it to him and said, "Can you win the title?" And he went, "Unless you show me a rule saying we can't, then yeah."
Yeah, well, but anyone can win the title if we're going to be like, you know what I mean, to the book. Like, of course we can, but we're not in a title race. That's what they're asking. We are not in a title race. It's 10 games in. I mean, when is there ever a title race 10 games in?
To be this far ahead, to have this many points.
Far ahead, we're 2 points ahead of Arsenal. It's not that far.
Yeah, but it's a significant amount. I mean, look how good Arsenal are, and you're still 2 points clear of them.
Nah, I'm not buying into all of this, man.
Tottenham haven't played anyone of note yet.
All right, let's not do that, though. Let's not do that.
Man United,
Liverpool, and Man United.
Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool.
That got you with that one.
Are Arsenal not of note yet?
Liverpool and Arsenal. What?
That's very quick, Brian. My point is, we played a downtrodden Arsenal after a tough game.
Downtrodden Arsenal. We played you at the Emirates.
We weren't great. We weren't great.
We finished 8th. You finished 2nd. You bottled the title. We played you at home.
We're not going to diminish Tottenham, but you have not played any of the other big teams.
We played Liverpool.
So when you do, when you do.
So what are Liverpool?
Any of the other big teams, you just mean they haven't played City.
So basically we haven't played City. That's all you're saying. Because we played all the other top 4 teams. We played Man United.
They played United, they beat them.
Damn it.
What are you talking about?
And West Ham.
To be fair, they've got Chelsea next. Monday Night Football.
That's an easy result, isn't
No,
it?
it's not.
No.
We all know what's happening there as well. Chelsea,
not. You lot will step up your game.
We're gonna beat Tottenham, then we're going to get smashed about 3 matches after that.
No game is easy. I just think right now we're in a good moment. You know, we're undefeated. We've got good momentum. Our fans are happy. We're playing good football. But we're one big injury away. Just one big injury away.
Leicester were one big injury away, and they didn't have Champions League football. It never came. They only had to worry about.
They were lucky.
One game a week. Yeah, and you guys might be looking. Erling. Haaland, it's 3, and it's such a comfortable win.
Phil, yes, get on there, my boys. Knee slide, yes.
Didn't we say earlier?
Stop putting Iniesta.
Foden doesn't score the main goals, but he puts the icing on the cake.
No, don't do him like that, man.
No, he's done well.
Do you know what this means to this young lad? in a Manchester derby in the pouring rain at Old Trafford.
Do you know the saddest bit about this, right? Is it was the way Man City were knocking the ball around Man United. It was men against boys that. Like,
this is the icing on the cake.
This is at Old Trafford.
Can I just say that we go back to 10 years ago, they were called the noisy neighbours. Man City were the ones that were the upstarts that were coming in, and Man United were patting them on the head and they were saying, you'll never get to the level that we are. You just see here how dominant they have become. They've made
Can we blame Onana for this?
Can we all say it? I wish they'd have done it for Sir Bobby for this match, because apparently that doesn't apply now. They've given up on that. Not as important.
Onana parries this right to Haaland, by the way. Maybe I'm being harsh. I don't know, but look.
Do you know who I feel sorry
pretty
for here?
good save.
Onana. Because this is probably the best match we've seen from him.
I've never seen him play this well.
This is the best match we've seen from him in a Man United shirt. Not only do they not have a point to come away from it, he's let him free. He's no Sanchez.
It's a very big fall from where Man United used to be, and we do just have to completely rethink where Man United are anymore.
Bro,
like
this is how Man United play every game. They've just
it's a very big fall from Man United last season.
Yeah.
We're going on about Fergie times. It's a big fall from where they were last season. Okay, they did get pumped in one match 6-3, but they also beat them at Old Trafford last season, you know what I mean? So when you see the amount that they've dropped off since that season, same manager, if anything, you would say better personnel. They only really let, Alanga go and no one else? To be in this sort of situation, I'm not just sticking the knife in because Man City beat them, because Man City can go and pump anyone in the Premier League, you know? Barring Spurs. But it's obviously, it's one of them things where it's like, you look at it now and you're like, God, you have slipped off massively.
They've played badly every game, almost every game this season, and just they've had a lot of good fixtures.
Can I just say something as well? This is what makes it look even worse when you're playing this kind of negative counter-attacking football as well, where you play that and then you end up losing 3-0 anyway. So you might as well have just went toe-to-toe with them.
I said 4-0 at half-time, didn't I?
Right, I'll tell you what, though. At what point in the season is it going to...
Look at him. He's gassed.
At what point in the season are we now questioning Eric Ten Hag? Because there's got to be a moment.
6 games ago.
No, I don't think there has realistically been any pressure on him yet. Any significant
because
pressure.
of ownership.
But within the Man United fans, like they're going to have to sit there now at Old Trafford and take this again. Another
Do you want to know
very
the mad
bad
thing?
loss.
They've won 5 and lost 5 this season, but the 5 they've won, they've played shite in nearly every one of those games.
Yeah.
Like it's. I don't know how much longer Man United fans can keep deluding themselves into thinking that the only problem with this club is the Glazers but the players are also. But it's not Ten Hag. I'm not blaming Ten Hag necessarily 100% for today, because obviously
Why
City
not?
are a good team with better players. So I would have expected them to win no matter what the manager was. But the way he sets them up, this was the same performance that we've seen against Sheffield United. They just got lucky in that game. It's the same thing.
Wow.
When we're saying about the obviously where the owners may not be at fault, where I would say this is we've got a perception, right, that when the manager is bringing in his players, you go, well, it's all on you. You know, in modern day football, maybe not the majority, but I bet there are a couple of managers who don't want to make the signings. There's probably a couple of, like Brighton had the guy, I forget his name, but he was the head of recruitment. He was the one scouting the players, bringing in the players, and they were doing brilliant with it. I very much doubt that Chris Hughton, Graham Potter, whoever was there at the time was the one going, right, bring me this guy. They probably never heard of him, but they had someone in place, and that was because that was put in place infrastructure-wise by the owner. So I do think that that's one thing you can say to Man United here, is maybe the ownership is stopping them having someone to almost relieve a bit of that pressure off of Ten Hag, because some manager, like we said about Klopp, some managers' talent ID isn't all that, and that's where the ownership does come into it a little bit.
You can't have your entire transfer policy based on, I've managed that guy before.
Jobs for the boys.
You cannot do that. That's just, it's so bad in modern football.
This is the thing, though. He did go for Mount, who he hadn't had any experience.
But
Mount was played in Holland.
But ironic.
Vitesse.
No, I think that was an opportunistic signing, wasn't it? Like, he was on the market. You knew you could get him in very early. It wasn't necessarily the huge money.
Why hasn't Mount started today? You know what I mean?
He's just rubbish, isn't he?
He's come on, and I forgot that he was in. So I think it's a really good indication.
The whole team's been negative, though. They've been set up negative. They've been playing negative. They're at home. This is why I said it's embarrassing.
Yeah, but I think the other challenge with Mount is that no one really know where he plays best. Yeah. And so we've never really known where he should go and what he's supposed to be doing on the pitch.
Chelsea boys, where did you think his best football was?
Fratton Park, Portsmouth.
What position?
No, I'm joking. Josh hates it.
So
best position for Mount, probably when we was with us, maybe in left wing.
yeah, I would say on the wing. I honestly would. I thought he was the best. Like he wasn't
mad 'cause he's not a winger.
He
No,
isn't.
people often think no, but
He's
people
not a
do,
winger.
people
Just
do
inverted
often
winger.
people do often think of Mount, don't they? And they think like, oh, centre attacking midfield, maybe an 8. The best I ever see him play at Chelsea was always left wing, normally.
What, cutting in, inverted wing or what?
Yeah,
I think basically the way he played with Thomas Tuchel was we had two sort of cams that would move into the sort of wing areas, and he was always best in that left-hand side, as Joey says, sort of like drifting between basically in the half space, kind of between those two things. He was very, very good there. But United have signed him
as a false 9.
But yeah.
he was
The
more
good old
central.
days.
Thank God.
Mount was more central at Derby, though, wasn't he? Like, it's not like we haven't seen him there. When we see him for England, a lot
Yeah,
of the
but
time.
look, Man United have signed him as being a potential number 6 or a number 8, and he's not the best
Yes,
in
It's
either.
funny the way these
But
guys
again-
diss these guys. Like they didn't win them the Champions League.
No, don't get me wrong.
They were just instrumental in winning
No,
them,
I'm not
but-
having that. Like Mason Mount is completely different. Like Kai Havertz for me is a different level. Like Mason Mount, I know he has got quality, and I think he
Havertz
can
is
do it.
tops.
Havertz is
No,
not
I think
good
Mason
enough.
Mount was
No?
very.
Oh, is he not now?
I don't diss him in terms of. I think
he's not
Mason
good at-
Mount
he's not
was a
good
very
at-
good
so is-
player
I love
for
Havertz.
Chelsea. I think Mason Mount is a very good player for Chelsea. I don't think Kai Havertz was, but we know. Like, I'm not going to hide the fact. I think Mason Mount left before the ship could sink. I think he jumped off before the ship was sinking. I think
that's
he saw
what it
what
was.
was. Yeah, I think
But
he
did
saw
he
what was
want to
going.
renew with you lot, but you wouldn't offer him the deal he wanted or something
Mate,
like that
we
money?
offered him a lot of money, man.
More than them.
Probably we didn't offer him more than them. But we're supposed to be his boy club, aren't we?
Nah,
Wait,
no.
money's money, man.
Martial and Anthony are coming on now, guys. Game changer.
Tweedle data,
Let's
tweedle
go.
dum.
Let's go. Come on, Man United. Last 5. Come on.
I'm surprised there aren't fans trying to just,
Wasn't
walk
that
out.
a show
Man. It's
that you
raining.
produced one?
There's plenty of players, to be fair, just while we're still on it, there's plenty of players that have left Chelsea that I give a lot of love to. We sing
on.
William's name when we played Fulham. I was there the other night, we're singing about William. There's loads of
What
players.
about when he was at Arsenal? Did you do it?
Nope.
No, you didn't. This is what I'm saying.
Bit of context to it.
He
though,
wasn't
like-
very good at Arsenal.
What do you mean?
Nah, he didn't.
He
last
wasn't
time.
very good at Arsenal. He's been
Name
a lot
me a
better.
player as soon as
lasted
they left
three-
that you're
three
nice
games.
to them. As soon as they
Idega
left.
Johnson when he was at Barcelona.
Fucking hell, you gone back 20 years.
Johnson.
You've gone back 20 years.
It's easier to get over an ex-girlfriend when she's not as hot as she used to be, and I think that's the William.
Idega
man,
Johnson's
see?
hot.
Now you're singing
pretty
William's
hot.
name.
Way
When he went to
different.
Arsenal, there was a bit of bitterness there, right?
I have to say, I still really rate Mason Mount. I think he is going to be good. I do.
He needs you to because no one else does.
I mean, I
Let's just get
actually
back
feel
to
sorry
glazing
for
over
Mount a little
Spurs.
bit. I feel like there was so much promise, and especially that season where they won the Champions League. He was mega in that season, and now I look at him as like some 5 out of 10 nobody at Man United. I'm just like, there's no threat there. I don't feel like you're even having any impact in any game.
Yeah, but I think Mount needs to be a part of a team that's structured in a way where his role's really clear. I think even now he's just a bit all over the place.
But he's not getting game time, is he? I mean,
Well,
he's on the junk minutes.
He's been on for half an hour, and I've genuinely haven't seen him touch the ball in any form of meaningful way. So I think that's a bigger issue for them than anything. But he should have gone to Arsenal when we asked for him.
No, mate. Can I just say he should have stayed at Chelsea? Like, I'm not just saying this being bitter. Pochettino is perfect for Mason Mount. When you look at the managers that got a lot out of Mason Mount, yeah, you had Frank Lampard obviously at Derby, Frank Lampard again at Chelsea, Thomas Tuchel. All of these players, all of these managers I'm talking about are good man managers that can get an arm around a player and touch into their personalities. And I really don't think that Ten Hag's that. I think that managerial wise, and that's why actually I'll possibly agree with you in terms of Arsenal. Maybe Arteta is one of those sort of managers. But I do think that Ten Hag's probably the worst fit for a player like Mason Mount.
Can we? Sorry, guys. Can we put a pin in this and go back to just glazing Spurs for a bit? Just get the Krispy Kremes glazed.
Well,
going on.
if you
we're only
you
gonna do
play
that.
your
I
title
didn't-
challenges,
Until you say
we'll
you're in
do
a
it.
title race, we're
Yeah,
not mentioning
exactly,
Spurs.
Exactly.
We're banning
No,
Say it.
no,
Say it,
no,
Craig.
no.
You
gotta
What I
admit
say,
it.
no, what I say
Say
is we are table leaders right now. we are setting the pace. That's what we're doing. We're playing some of the best football in the league right now. Madison is one of the best attacking midfielders. I think he is the best playmaker in the league on form right now. Odegaard's disappeared. I don't know what's going on with Odegaard right now.
Having a couple of weeks off.
He's kind of disappeared a bit, but
60 games in the
Madison
season for some
and
of us.
Son are going crazy. Son is captain right now, and he's leading by example. And I never thought Son could be a captain. Personally, I did not think he had it in him. Especially when we watch them documentaries of Hugo Lloris shouting at him and stuff
that was
like that.
hilarious.
Did you think he could be a striker?
I knew he could be a striker
A
because he's
lone
always been a great
striker.
finisher. He's ambipedal.
Yeah.
Of course.
Hashtag Gabby Pedal.
What did I say before?
Pedal
I
dexterous.
said pedal-dexterous, yeah.
Yeah.
He's ambipedal, right? He's fluent with both
never
feet.
forget it.
He's just quality. I think we're in a very good place, but I just want to give a shout out to Mickey van der Ven. Class. He's coming for Saliba. He's coming for Saliba's title as best CB in the league at the
Are
moment.
you a little bit?
He is.
Are you a little bit worried, Mov, about the progress of Spurs?
No.
because me and
Why?
you never seen this coming. Surely.
True. We spent all of last year watching me start off very moderately, like very similar to what you did. Like, no, we're just here and we're happy and we're grateful. Come to bloody February, I was like spitting feathers, and then it didn't work out for us. So there's a long way to go, and I think I've learned my lesson about talking in the first 10 games. In fact, I have nothing to say until January.
Can I say something?
What
though?
I do want.
Can but we got to give the context though, because you're comparing it.
Very quickly.
Go on.
I want you to enjoy that.
I'm enjoying it.
Because,
I'm enjoying
because
it.
if you remember, we were here last year and we were like, oh, you guys are going to finish 8th. Yeah? So the fact that you're top right now,
Yeah.
under any context, is brilliant.
There we go.
What I'm saying, though, because we have experience and I'm telling you now, I'm not interested in commentating and committing to anything. What I do like about my team, which we'll go into afterwards fully, is the fact that we look improved and more stable. So it makes me more comfortable to go into games, and the games that we should lose or normally would lose, we might get a point or win from. Whereas last year, we would have been spun.
Let's not make this about Arsenal.
No, I just want to
Bring
say
it
that
back
last
to Spurs.
thing. Sorry,
That's fine.
Spurs are
That's
great.
fine. We finished 8th last season. The season we didn't expect you last season to challenge for the title, and that was
Yeah.
incredible what you did. But you finished 5th, was it? Just outside the top 4? So
When?
you went the season before.
Oh, yeah.
You finished 5th, and then you had a title challenge, right?
Yeah.
And really, let's be real, you should have won it. But you had a title challenge, right? Amazing. We finished 8th and lost not only our best player, but one of the best strikers in world football. That's the context that we're dealing with here. And now we are sitting top of the table. Andrew's had the best start that a Premier League manager's ever had in his first season. We've had our best start in our history, I think, in Tottenham's history. So I'm just enjoying it, innit? I'm smiling
want
every
you
day.
to. And you
3
deserve
points.
it.
We take it game by game.
Are you playing Champions League football next season?
100%. I'll say that.
No, I think they will.
I'll say that. We're not playing Europe right now. We don't really have an excuse. We need to go out there and win our game.
But the only reason why I think that might be difficult, is again, I think Villa are still a very good proposition, and I still think Liverpool, Arsenal,
All these teams have got Europe, right?
No, but I think those three, Liverpool, Man City, and Arsenal, are definitely going to be in the top 4. I think Tottenham are a very, very good shout, but there's a bunch of teams, including Newcastle and Villa, that I think could do something. So I think it's just
Anthony's losing his head on the pitch here, guys.
He's just come on.
He might get
Anthony's sweeping at Doku, and then Doku sort of wagged his finger, and Anthony starts smacking it away with furious anger.
Yeah.
And you're like, mate,
See
it's
this
3-0 down.
I know what
It's the
Doku's
91st minute. Like, relax.
What is he
this?
doing?
He's lucky to
Crazy,
only
what
get that slap of the hand. He's lucky to only get a yellow there just because he's losing it here.
Yeah, what was those challenges about?
I wonder why he's... Because he's only just come on the pitch, bro. You
he's a
knew you were
nutcase.
losing
He's
before you kicked the ball.
rubbish as well.
He's rubbish
so
and a
bad.
nutcase. It's just like
Yeah.
it's two evils.
Arguably,
Dosh
shouldn't
is
even
thinking,
be
I'm not your
playing.
missus. You don't intimidate me.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Rubbish.
wow.
He went
rubbish.
there,
and
He
a
went there.
nutcase.
He went
Wow.
there. He went there.
Wow.
He went there. He shouldn't be on the pitch, but there you go.
But you guys aren't drawing me out. That's all I'm saying. Christmas, we get to Christmas. If Spurs are right up there at Christmas, then I'll go out on a
Oh my God, Doku!
We're going to
skins
remember that
Bruno
for the
Fernandes,
Christmas episode.
takes around
For the-
another.
No, we'll do it on the
You can
Christmas
clip it.
podcast, and we'll have you here, and you're sort of like your hat. We'll do the
Yeah,
crackers,
you can clip it. If we're,
and then
top,
you'll
if we're
go-
around there at Christmas, then clip it. I'll say it.
remember
I'll
that,
stick my neck
Brian.
on the chopping
Remember that.
board.
What you saying?
At Christmas, if we're top of the league or just in about top of the league, then I'll stick my head on the chopping board and say that we're going to win the league. I'll say it.
No.
Why not? We ain't got nothing to
If
lose.
you're in the top 3 at Christmas and it's close, I think
No, top 2.
you have to start believing.
Top 2
for sure.
Or if there's point, if the
Like
points,
like a close top 3.
points. Yeah. Then fine.
I think that's. I like Tottenham.
Then
I'll
fine.
take that
We're
for
playing
you.
good football now. Anyway,
You are.
that's all I'm really happy
Like
about.
really good as well. Not even just like you're playing well and winning games. You're playing really good football.
Yeah.
That I would actually watch Tottenham games now.
Whereas before it was shocking.
It was difficult. It was
actually
difficult.
shocking.
Wow.
Well, Rodri just kicked him to be
Johnny
fair.
Evans is going for a fucking red card. Yeah, he's already booked and he's just dragged someone down.
But I think this capitulation at the end of the game is exactly why I feel like Matt Ten Hag doesn't have a handle on this team.
Yeah, there's no control. is
No,
there?
like
Yeah.
Anthony coming in and doing that is nonsense. Bruno Fernandes is your captain, and he's doing a nonsense and kicking people on the floor. You just like, look, to be honest, I don't think this team has the leaders to get out of this in a good way, man. I feel like there's going to be a wholesale clean out.
The narrative, though,
kids in.
from the Man United bad brigade of online of, oh, well, it was City and we weren't expected to lose and that can't be blamed on Ten Hag. Dude, you play like this every fucking week, man. This is no different to Sheffield United. You got dominated, and well, it wasn't like Sheffield United were creating loads, but you weren't playing football. You looked like shit, and you look like shit again. And it's just this is standard Man United. But the thing is, how much longer before Man United are actually under real pressure to get rid of Ten Hag? I can't see the performances changing.
The only thing
they've been consistent.
The only thing that's going to save Ten Hag is the bureaucracy that goes on at Man United and the impending takeover that's going to happen. That is the only thing.
Ten Hag has to rely on the clouded vision of fans who are willing to believe that this is 100% on the Glazers and not the fact that this fucking fraud has spent over 400 million on a team that was already in the top 6.
Anthony,
by the way,
Casemiro.
they were top 6 when he inherited them.
Yeah.
And then he spent 400 million on top of the top 6
And
team.
they're worse.
And this is the shit where there's unequivocally, he is going to finish lower than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at this rate.
Can I just say something? They're the only team right now in the top 14 in the league to lose 5 games.
There you go.
Wow.
The only team that's lost 5 games, and it's only because they haven't drawn and they've won 5.
They lost 9 last season, which was a lot for the position they finished in.
They've lost 5 with 10 games in now.
I think Newcastle lost about 4 last season. We lost less than half of them or whatever. So here's the thing with Man United. If there's a thing that a manager is supposed to instill in them, along with the tactics, it's mental strength, right?
Yeah.
They're a mentally weak side. I was talking to a Man United mate of mine the other day, and he said, you know the thing about Newcastle? When you guys aren't playing well, you gut it out and you get a draw. Like against West Ham, we didn't play our best. Against Wolves, we didn't play our best. We got a draw. Man United have no draws this season because they don't have that mental strength. And today, they should look. City are a hard proposition, but you didn't even look in the fucking game at any point.
What are they complaining to the refs about? Like, what is there to complain about?
Maguire's an embarrassment, man.
Anthony should have been sent off in the last few minutes. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he was actually having an argument with Doku even before that free kick. Even he should have been sent off. Like Bruno is petulant again. They've just got
there's no
maturity or like mentality.
The one thing I agree with Marvin on, and you called this from day one, is as much as I think Bruno Fernandes is a better footballer than you do, you've always said he ain't no leader.
Yeah,
he's no fucking leader.
No
chance.
You can't build a team around him.
You can't be a leader and not turn up in big games.
If you go through that first 11, who would you sit there? If you walk in the club tomorrow, who are you keeping and who are you getting rid of? There's not much to keep.
And not just that, those like, see how we saw Anthony acted? Bruno displays a lot of that in his game as well, that petulant side of him. Do you know what I mean? When you're a leader, you can't be that guy. You need to be the guy that calms everyone down.
But this is so many of these players were bought by Ten Hag now. You can't be like, oh, Ten Hag hasn't got his own stamp on the squad. Bollocks.
No, but he's got Evans and Maguire playing centre back under whatever conditions.
Lindelof left back.
Bizarre. Because really and truly, it should be 2 young kids playing there, if anything. But bringing Evans in for a 6-month contract and bringing Maguire from the dead is bizarre.
But
Lindelof at left back.
Martinez and Varane. Like Varane's on the bench today, I think. They were shite under Ten Hag earlier this season.
Yeah, but they still haven't
different.
figured out the DM position either. So they're still operating off of like. Amrabat just isn't.
Well, Amrabat was the solution to the decline in Casemiro. The legs were going, and that's why they went and got Amrabat. So that was a solution from Ten Hag to a problem he created.
Yeah, these are milking it, by the way. They're milking it over at the away end right now. Right after the derby, this hurts. Like when we lose to Arsenal at home, and then Arsenal come over to the away section. You know what I mean? And they're just milking it out there for ages. It's horrible in the rain as well. These Man United fans must be upset. This is bad. But this also shows me I think Man City are going to power on and win this league, though.
I think this will galvanise them for sure. It's a big result.
Rodri
and it was a very easy win. Like there was nothing hard about this win, other than the fact that Man United parked the bus. There was no threat. Like we always talk about, me and Joey always compare boxing to football. There was nothing coming back. No. Like you have to lay a glove on the opponent and make him go, oh fuck, we have to. There was no reason to respect Man United today. At all. Scott McTominay had one good shot. Wow, so fuck.
I don't find it a coincidence, by the way, that Rodri was back, though. I don't think that's a coincidence that they churned out this performance and he was back. I think it just fills the whole team with more confidence when he's playing. Yeah. And I think for the opposition team, it's a bit more frightening when you see him on there as well.
Isn't it? Like he sets the tone in that midfield. So yeah, we're going to wrap this up now. Big love to everyone who watched. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Shout out to the boys. Great to have Marvin back on the show. Yes, we will see you on the next one. Cheers, everyone.